they were going to go out. They were like opening the door, like unlocking one of the locks, like to go out. What we think was probably Syrian special forces, because they got on a roof so fast, like 3-4 stories up. Constantine were everywhere. They got on the roof in like 3-4 minutes. You don't just do that. Like, they're trained, you know.
Hello, everyone. Today we have on a very special guest, Mr. Jared Heath. He is the owner of AlthaTechnology, based out of Maine, North Carolina, and he is a Marine Corps veteran. Mr. Heath, how are you today?
Doing great. I'm doing great.
Good. First question is, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in South China, Maine, on a lake. Yeah, well, not on a lake, but like right up from the lake.
Mm-hmm.
It's 3 Mile Pond. My brother lives there now, actually, not the same house, but on the same spot. So.
Is that an agricultural area, urban?
No, it's total population. South China is like 2,000 people.
Okay.
So like our street had 10 houses, maybe 12 total on the whole street, you know. So
small area.
Yeah, not a lot of people. Country, woods. It's Maine, woods.
Yeah.
That's all of Maine. Maine is that way.
What kind of school did you go to?
I went to China school my schooling was weird because we homeschooled and went to public school. So I did like the normal public school thing for kindergarten through 3rd grade, and was homeschooled 4th grade, and then went to a private Christian school 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Then went to the local high school from 9th and 10th grade, and then was homeschooled 11th grade, did my senior and junior year together, and then joined the Marines after that.
Was joining the Marines always something you wanted to do? Was it something No?
Off the spur of the moment, off the cuff. Never had even thought about it. My brother joined, our family friend joined the Marines Reserves, and 2 years before I did. And then my brother, I think, kind of was like, well, I guess I'll do that. And so my brother joined the year prior to me, and then I was like, well, I guess I'll do that. So I joined. That was it. We're not like a military family or anything. It was just kind of like, well, I guess I'll join the military, and if I'm going to do it, I'll do the best one. Why not?
Best one.
Why not? So.
Is your dad a veteran?
Nope.
Okay.
My grandfather was in the Air Force.
I remember your dad came to visit several times, and he was wearing something that made me think of the military, but I wasn't really able to identify it. So I wasn't sure if he was a veteran or if he maybe had something that was
might have worn like a Marine Corps hat or a shirt or something.
I think so, and maybe I couldn't tell if it was something that he had done or something that was just valuable to him because you had done it.
No, they have some paraphernalia or whatever because me and my brother were in.
Okay.
So.
And you were an embassy guard in the Marines, is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, so... Yeah, I mean, how verbose do you want me to get on stuff?
Get all the way to
Okay. Well, so I did 8 years total, and did 3 years in infantry, and then I was MC guard, so I re-upped. So I signed up for 4 more, and when you do that, you're allowed to kind of like request duty station. You're like, so it's kind of like you're negotiating, sort of. So you're like, well, yeah, I'll re-enlist if I can get this type of thing. So I re-enlisted, and I was going to go drill instructor. I'm pretty glad I didn't. But I don't know what brought up Marine Security Guard. I don't know why. I don't remember why I did that. Because I don't know. But I was like, I guess I'll do that. And so I re-enlisted, and then I got Marine Security Guard. And yeah, so then that was in 2008. 2009-ish. Yeah, something like that.
Did you find that boot camp was challenging?
Boot camp, challenging. It depends. I mean, so like running, right? You're a runner. I mean, is running 17 miles challenging? What makes it challenging?
just it's demanding.
Right, but well, I guess I would make the argument like, I think, to me, something's much more challenging when you can quit. In the Marines, you can't really quit. You're stuck.
Yeah.
It's like being in prison.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing I can imagine. It probably is a lot like prison.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't quit. You can't leave. They will push you through unless you really suck. Mm-hmm. So it's not now. So in that component, like I don't think I would have quit. So it wasn't hard enough to make me want to quit. So, but it was hard. I mean, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life up to that point. Mm-hmm. So, right, I guess, sort of. Mm-hmm. To me, challenged is something that when your chips are down and it's really hard, do you keep going when you could quit? I think that's what makes something most challenging. And so when you're just forced into a situation where you just can't leave, like, I guess you could give up, but. So yeah, but it's hard. It was hard. I mean, it was the thing that the Marines does, or the military, but probably the Marines specifically, is it teaches you your limits. They do a good job of that. Mm-hmm. So they show you that you can definitely do more than you think you can do. Mm-hmm. Like go in the sand pit and you do like push-ups and mountain climbers in sand in like 100 degrees for like an hour. Mm-hmm. Without stopping, and you're like, oh wow, that was hard. Or you can sand even something as simple as march for like 2 hours in 90 degrees out on tarmac, like with 80 people all marching in line. Like it's pretty amazing. And so it really just, there's lots of things that show you like, okay, wow, I can do all these difficult things, so. And then Marine Corps Boot Camp has something called the Crucible, which is like a 3-day long thing. You get very little sleep, maybe 2 to 4 hours a night type of thing. We actually only did like 1.5 days of it, and then there was a hurricane, so they kept us kind of awake, but we couldn't be outside, so it kind of ruined the whole thing. Right. But we did half of it, and it was like, that was another thing. Like, I remember we were doing an obstacle course where you have to like crawl through mud and, do all that stuff. And, all of my muscles in my body started cramping. So like my hand was going like this, like closing on its own. And I had to like force it open, like, cause it was just, everything was cramping, my whole body, just from dehydration. Or whatever. Right. And as a 17-year-old kid,
it's kind of scary. Never
done that. Never been there, but doing that, you're like, oh, wow, I lived, I'm alive, I did it, so yeah, there's hard things there, but it teaches you your limits. So
is there a specific memory that you have where you felt like you couldn't just go on?
That's a good question. Probably couldn't go on boot camp
or throughout your entire time in the Marines.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. Well, there's things that are outside your control. Let me think. When I was in Iraq or something like that. So, there were times. I would say probably the closest I got was when you're really tired. So there was when I was in Iraq the first time, we got there, and then our leadership made a bad decision, in my opinion, which was I don't remember exactly how many guys we had, but it was, 30, 40 guys, and they decided to make us to accomplish the job, the workflow, so to speak, that we had to do. Mm-hmm. We had to monitor an ECP, an entry control point, so basically search cars. Mm-hmm. So we had to do that at one place. we had to monitor another entry control point somewhere else, and then we had to do like a night patrol, and then we could sleep. And then instead of, breaking that up into like, okay, squad 1 does that for a week, just that. Squad 2 does the other thing for a week, all day. And then they're like, okay, everybody rotate every 4 hours. So we would go to one ECP, right? So your transition time to everything uses up all your extra time.
Yeah.
You see it transitioning from one workflow to the other, going from one ECP to the other one to the other one. And so we ended up basically getting like 3-4 hours of sleep a night, if that, for like a month. And after like 2 or 3 weeks of that, you pretty much don't care if you die. You're like, I just don't care. And so we would end up sleeping on patrol. I was the gunner, so I had like I don't know if I had a 50 cal machine gun or like a 240 Golf. But had a machine gun, and I would just sleep, just fall asleep, just because you're just so tired.
Right.
And so we'd go out on patrol, and I'd just be like, you actually had these night vision mounts, and you could right here, and you could hook your helmet into the grips on the machine gun, and you just hang your helmet. And everybody fell asleep in the whole vehicle.
Yeah.
So that was the worst. My first tour, I would say I probably did the worst. Because that's a big deal. Falling asleep on watch, falling asleep. That's how people die, frankly. It's your one job. But when you have no sleep for a long period of time, it's so hard. So I would say sleep is probably the thing that would make me most likely to quit at something.
Did no one speak up to your leadership?
I don't know. I was a peon. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
They would never tell me. I was like a private or whatever, lance corporal. So it wasn't my job to do that. It was my job to just be a gunner.
Yeah.
So,
I
wouldn't know that.
That was during your first contract.
First tour, yeah. During the first contract, yeah.
How many times were you in Iraq?
Twice. 2 7-month tours.
Okay. And you joined around 2008, you said?
2006. June 20th. June 19th, 2006.
So that was during the War on Terror?
Yeah. Iraq, the whole thing.
So you kind of joined knowing that you would end up in the Middle East somewhere?
Yeah, that was during wartime. But I didn't end up going to Afghanistan, which was really where it was worse. And then when I got to Iraq, things had calmed down about 6 months before where we went, which was Ramadi. And Fallujah, my unit went to Fallujah before I joined, and they saw a lot of combat in Fallujah. But when we were there, it was pretty quiet, peaceful. We got our battalion, which is 1,000 Marines, only got attacked once the whole time. And that wasn't us. It was a unit. They were about 2 or 3 miles from us, and it was near the end of our tour. Bravo Company, I think. They got attacked. One Marine died, got killed. And then 2 guys lost limbs, a lieutenant and somebody else. And that was it. I mean, more guys die from drinking and driving when you're in the States. Yeah. So from that point, it was like Lieutenant Colonel Iron Mike, we called him. Lieutenant. I think he did a good job training us, making sure, instilling discipline and making sure we were trustworthy type of thing.
So a lieutenant colonel commands a battalion?
He commands 1,200, yeah. Okay. Or 1,000 Marines, yeah.
So were there other Marines in your unit who taught you lessons that you say kept you alive during your time in Iraq, both times maybe?
Well, I mean, it was quiet, so it wasn't anything I did
that
kept me alive. But it was, you know what I mean? I had good leadership. I don't know if it was my first tour, Lieutenant. First tour with Lieutenant Clark, huge black guy. He could lift 300 pounds straight over his head. He was so strong. That's probably what got me into weightlifting. Was both my leadership, Gunny Ewing and Lieutenant Clark, both were just incredibly strong lifting type dudes. So that taught me how to work out and exercise. everybody worked out and exercised. We built a gym where we were at. We're in the middle of the desert. Everybody was so into it. Like the leadership was so into it that they built we had the best gym area, which compared to a gym here was total garbage. But for in the middle of the desert, it was great.
What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, it was amazing. So people would, work out, and I would work out. And, that's what got me into that. I don't know. I mean, one thing Lieutenant Clark taught me was, he said, never make comfort-based decisions. Heath, never make comfort-based decisions. Which basically the point is don't make decisions based on emotion, really. There should be a reason that you're going to do something. Mm-hmm. And if you need to do it type of thing. And if you're tired, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like do the right thing. Whether you're tired, whether you're whatever. Which that has carried over to other things in life. I've thought of that pretty often. I don't follow it 100% now. If I'm really tired and whatever, because I have realized in the long term, there's a short term of that, and then there's the long term of that concept. And basically, if you're overtrained in a sense, or if you've worked too hard for too long, mm-hmm. you have to make comfort-based decisions in the sense of you got to let stuff go. Yeah. There's too much going on. There's too many decisions you have to make. Mm-hmm. And you made mistakes getting there, but you do have to make decisions like, look, I'm not doing that because I need time off. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is that? That's a comfort-based decision. Right? Yeah. So there is sort of this, as you get older, as I've gotten older, I've learned to temper that. In the short term, that makes sense. Look, if you've got a job to do and you're doing your job, but then you have to make structure around when you're doing your job and when you're not. Mm-hmm. It's like, look, I'm not working right now. Right. So
you can wait.
That's what I'd recommend, even for you, I'd recommend considering controlling your time is a really important thing that I haven't learned until this year, probably. Mm-hmm. Well, saying no. Yeah. Controlling time, controlling my schedule. Mm-hmm. If the most important thing you can do, control your schedule. Yeah. That's it. Exercise control over your schedule and don't be pushed into things that, not that you don't want to do, but don't be pushed into things that you don't need to do. It's okay to say no. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Did you go to Iraq immediately out of boot camp at AIT?
Yeah, so SOI is what the Marine Corps call it, School of Infantry. Okay. I think the AIT would be the Army. Yeah. And no, I had 8-9 months with my unit. What was it? I joined in June, July, August, September. Mm-hmm. Got out of boot camp September. It's 3 months. And then went to School of Infantry. I was trained as a tow gunner based on my brothers. I called my brother saying, I want to be a machine gunner. I want to shoot machine guns. Because they let you kind of pick sort of your sub jobs. So you can be like a machine gunner. You can be a mortarman. You can be an crunchy or an 0311. Mm-hmm. Just a regular infantryman. Yeah. Or you can be a tow gunner. I don't think I'm missing any. Or you can be a 0351, which is they do explosives. Like blowing up the doors and stuff. Yeah. It's pretty sweet. They're pretty cool. That's probably the coolest one. And I wanted to be a machine gunner. And then I called my brother, and I was able to call him. And he's like, be a tow gunner. You're going to get promoted way faster. I was like, but I want to be a machine gunner. He's like, look, you're going to shoot machine guns anyway. Just be a tow gunner. And so the difference is a tow gunner, there's only basically 1/8 of the infantrymen can be a tow gunner. Okay. Or it might even be less than that. So it's a rare job, and you have to have a GT score, an IQ score, basically, of over 105, I think. Okay. So there's an intelligence kind of based on the ASVAB. Right. So there's sort of an intelligence standard where there isn't for the other ones, except for maybe 0351s. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it more unique, just that there's a standard. It's not even that you have to be that smart. It's just you have to be of a certain intelligence. Right. And that worked out exactly how my brother said. So I did that, and it worked out perfectly. Mm-hmm. Went to weapons company, which is what you want. Once again, you're kind of you're not the elite of an infantry battalion, but there's less of you, and you're all smarter, basically, literally. I mean, you're part of the better group.
Given the scores, yeah.
Yeah, right. You're less. So 0311's like they are the cannon fodder. They're and being Marines, you're still a step above even the Army or whomever. So right, but even still, there's still grades within that, better and worse. And so being an 0311 is the worst because you get the worst leadership, you get the worst lieutenants, you get the worst everything. Then you can go to like weapons company, and then you get actually better lieutenants. Like you get, because your job as a weapons company is to support everybody else. So you have to be able to like do more complex problem solving in the sense of they're already being attacked. How do we save them?
Right.
Whereas 0311s, it's like, go over there. Just do it. And they're like, okay. That's it. And then they get attacked. And then it's our job to come in and save them or to support them. So maybe not save them, but like, all right, we're getting attacked. We need to figure out how to flank, go around, get at the bad guy, That's weapons company's job generally. So we have vehicles, Humvees and stuff like that. Crunchies, they're going to walk, probably. They're going to do foot patrols. They're going to walk around and they're going to go into the houses and stuff. And we're going to be driving around on highways and like waiting for them to call us for help type of thing. So that's, if you're going to join, that's what you want to do. You want to try and be in some type of something that has some sort of intelligence standard.
Yeah.
And your time is much, much better because your leadership's smarter. They're better. Like I had a naval academy.
Oh, okay.
So one was from Lieutenant Clark he went to the Citadel.
Okay. Yeah. South Carolina.
Yeah. So he went to the Citadel. And then Lieutenant Herman, he was a Naval Academy graduate, which is not easy. I mean, it's a legit.
Even getting in is hard, let alone making it through.
Yeah. I mean, it's legit. And so that shows like he cared. Having a lieutenant that doesn't care or is dumb, basically, or a bad leader can just ruin your life. I mean, they can do whatever you want. Right. They own you.
Right.
So they're your first guy, officer above you, and they own you. They're like, hey, we're going to go do this dumb thing on Saturday or Sunday or whenever we want. And they can do it. And it's like, we're just going to train all the time and like never get time off. And they can do that, So we had good lieutenants. Lieutenant Herman was super awesome. Anyway, what was the question?
Oh, he's asking about your experiences.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, you told me one of your instructors taught you an important lesson that was slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Oh, yeah, Corporal Lanes, yeah.
Was that during your initial training?
Yeah, that was... No, it wasn't boot camp or SOI or anything. That was Lanes. So I think he fought in Fallujah. He taught me how to disassemble and assemble the 50 cal machine gun.
Yep.
And that was what he told me when he was teaching me how to do that, was slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Because what happens, and this is true, that is a principle of life.
Oh, yes. For sure.
Even with running, weightlifting, take your pick. I mean, almost anything you can apply it to. But basically the concept is, if you try too hard to go fast, you're going to fail. You're not going to go as fast as you could. Whereas if you try to go smooth, you're probably going to end up going faster.
Yeah.
So like with running, my experience of that with running now is like, I used to run trying to run 7-8 minute pace, like trying to run faster.
Yeah.
And now I basically don't even care how fast I run. That's it. I just, like, I'm going to run 6 miles. And I don't really have a pace target most of the time. And so I end up running 10-minute pace or whatever. But if I do that long enough, I'll be able to run faster than if my training was 6-minute pace or 7-minute pace type of thing. In running, there's kind of science and stuff behind that.
Yeah.
Zone 2.
Zone 2, yeah.
Building your cardio base and all this stuff. And your body just gets more efficient. But that's why, I mean, it's like, go slow.
Right. It's a general principle.
Then you'll go fast at the right time. And yeah, that's so true. That's true with everything.
Is that something that you've applied to business?
Probably not. Yeah, like right now, right? I'm in negotiations with this guy. We have a deal. We're slowly building a contract that we'll eventually sign. And I'm forcing it to happen slower. Just to absorb all the information, right? All the different things, all the workflows, all the different products, all the different stuff that we have to do. Mm-hmm. Whereas we could throw something together and I could put it out there, but I might end up getting screwed. Yeah. Right? If we go too fast. Mm-hmm. If I price too fast or if I do whatever too fast. Right? So like a smaller example on that might be he wants me to ship products in 2 days. And I had originally said 3 days. And kind of I want my counteroffer to be like, well, you know what? 5 days. Yeah. Originally I thought 3 because now I know a lot more. I mean, you can see there's all the products, right? Some of them, there's, however many 50 phones or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's hard to source stuff sometimes. Maybe they're out of USB sticks. Maybe there's an order, there's all kinds of variables. And it's like, yeah, if I sign a contract that says you can get it for free if I don't ship it for 2 days, within 2 days. Yeah, that's wow, I've now not made any money and I'm screwed. Right. And now we're just not going to be able to work together. Right. So I'm not making any money, so I'm not going to care about it, so I can't do it. Can't fulfill on the contract. Right. Whereas if you take it slow and you try and force everything to slow down a little bit, then you can make better decisions and stuff. That's why I like our government, frankly. I used to hate the government. And now I'm more like, honestly, I like the fact that the bureaucracy is slow, especially running a small business that runs on the internet. Mm-hmm. Whereas you can have the government, which is like, wow, they're like a turtle. They're like so slow. Right. It takes like 8 months to do anything. Yeah. But it's like, to me, I feel like there's actually a purpose behind that. I don't think it's necessarily intentional. It should probably be more efficient, right? But it's nice that there is something that functions and people get paid and it works and it's not too fast. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't mind if my passport takes 6 months.
It's done right.
Whatever. As long as it's done and it's done right and it's like whatever. Even if it's done wrong. Like that, to me, that's almost part of slowing it down. Mm-hmm. Slowing life down. Like, what's the rush? Yeah. What's the rush?
It's a long time.
Like, just plan better. Yeah. I just don't see that as a bad thing. No, I think that's just getting older.
I agree with that. Part of my internship that I told you about is making decisions. That's a lot of what I do. And sometimes it's worth it to just pause. Even if it upsets people, making sure you do something slowly but correctly is better than doing it quickly but incorrectly.
Yes.
And if you have to go back and redo something, you've lost your credibility, I found sometimes.
That's true. That's true. But actually, there's actually, I read this, it was in some self-help book. There's actually science behind the concept of, like a mechanic. They asked a mechanic, and if you're a mechanic and you do it wrong, but then you fix it. Yeah. Perfectly, basically, like if the experience of getting it fixed again is perfect, you actually have created a deeper connection with your customer, and they're more likely to come back to you.
I would definitely agree, but
so it's kind of you could kind of game it and be like, well, I'm gonna, people could intentionally do it wrong.
I think people know though.
Yeah, they might. They probably sense it. Yeah. So that's the return experience is, which most eBay sellers I deal with, I find this is true. They offer a very good return experience. Mm-hmm. Like
that's how you keep people.
No questions asked. Yeah, we'll take it back. See, I don't really do that with my business, but I've cut my teeth on creative work, which
it's a lot harder to just take back.
They're bigger projects, right? I can't just undo $2,000 of work. Right. So I'm keeping this money, because it's gone. I've already paid the labor. Right. So there is this sort of with creative work, the whole customer's always right thing and things like that. I don't really run my business in that regard. Maybe I should more, but I just don't. I don't. For me now, it's more about, is the deal true?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is our agreement accurate? I don't care if you're happy in one sense, as long as the agreement has been fulfilled. And the agreement is separate from your feelings or, frankly, your opinion, depending. Mm-hmm. Right? It's part of it, but it's not all of it. So that's what I'm finding, is there's definitely, I think, setting expectations properly, but there are points where, as a business owner, at least for me, I have to say, no, this project is done. Mm-hmm. And I don't care that you're dissatisfied, and here's the bill. Mm-hmm. And they don't like that, and they don't really work with me later. But frankly, the reason I would do that with certain customers is like, I wanted, you've made this project so hard.
Right.
I don't want to do another one anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I need to get my money out of this. Mm-hmm. Like, I need to at least break even. So most of the time when that has happened, I've broken even. And those customers still come back, but they don't do as big projects necessarily, maybe. Mm-hmm. But they still have come back because we're still the only guy they can work with, or we are trustworthy.
Yeah.
Right. And we are honest. It's like, yeah, I miscalculated the budget again. I'm not really sorry. Maybe I should be, but this is what it is. So
trust is a big thing in the world. How is trust applied in the military?
That's an interesting question. Well, it all comes together. The military is a great place. Pretty much everybody trusts each other, at least the Marines, in certain capacities. Now, granted, the other thing is everybody's young. So there's this, like, even the old guys are like 31. Like, that's like old. It's like old.
Yeah.
So like ancient guys are like 40. You're like, it's like, what? How are you alive? It's like so old. Most people are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. I don't know if that has anything to do with trust, but basically everybody, I never had times where I felt like I couldn't trust. Very rarely, maybe some guys, right? But over 80, 90%, it's, I trust you. You've all done hard things. You've all been through boot camp. Mm-hmm. You've all sort of been vetted. So there's that camaraderie, and you don't want to screw your buddy. Mm-hmm. Not really. Some guys do, but it's the minority from my unit, from my experience. So the trust is way higher than in the civilian world. Way higher. Like, it's a whole different world because of trust, probably. Like, that's why a lot of guys like it, I think. A lot of guys miss it, whatever. I don't necessarily miss it, but like business, you don't trust. I find it takes about a year to trust. It takes about a year of them paying invoices for me to trust them. Yeah. And for us to have a good working relationship. It takes about a year. Yeah. That's how long it takes. Thousands of dollars, probably. And then it's like, okay, cool. We trust each other now. He pays his invoices on time. I'll do the work. I'll care. I'll show up. But it takes months, years, a year, So yeah, there's way more trust. How do they handle trust? I think that's the training, basic training, boot camp, all that stuff. I think all of that aids in building the military community. After you get through training, after you get into the fleet, in the Marines, it's called the fleet. Mm-hmm. The Fleet Marine Force, FMF. Once you get, there's a lot of. I mean, you have to, right? Your job is to kill people. Your job is to die, especially as infantry. Like, your job is to be willing to die.
Yeah.
So like everybody's in the same boat there. Yeah. Like, everybody made that decision, and they answered on some level, at least when they joined, okay, to that question. Even maybe not fully understanding, right? Like, but it's like, if you're going to join the Marine Corps and the infantry, you are signing up and saying, yeah, place me in a place where people will try to kill me. Yes, I want to do that. So like,
Yeah,
it makes right.
Yeah.
It kind of.
It's a trauma bond.
Yeah, there you go. I had heard that recently for the first time, like 2 months ago or something.
Yeah.
Trauma bonding. Yeah. Kinda, I guess. Yeah. So there's a much higher level of trust in the military than there is elsewhere. Because I mean, you're an officer. If you're an officer, they have to do what you say, or more people might die.
Yeah.
Of your buddies, like of Marines. Like if you don't do the thing that you're told to do, you or other people might die more. Like that's the job. It's not like you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
Literally, people might die. You don't know. So if an officer says, "Hey, do this patrol on Route Mobile at midnight," you don't know why necessarily.
You just do it.
You're going to go do the patrol at midnight on Route Mobile. Like maybe there's a bomb.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an IED. Maybe there isn't. Maybe there's terrorists. Maybe there isn't. But okay. Yeah, we're going to go do that. So I don't know that. Does that answer your question? Kind of. I don't know. There's a higher level of trust for sure.
Is it hard coming back stateside after a deployment?
For me, it wasn't but it wasn't like Vietnam. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's. Hard. No, I don't think so. You're still in the military. Like you're a different person. It's a whole different world, man. Like getting out is probably the better. Like, is it hard getting out of the military?
I'm guessing you were in the barracks.
Yeah, I live in barracks. Yeah, I live in the barracks. Yeah, I live in, what was it? HP 185. Yeah. Camp Lejeune, so Eastern North Carolina. Yeah. It was 3 guys per room. I lived Taylor Herchick, my roommate Corey Rucker. He's down in Florida, I think. I haven't talked to him in 12 years, probably. They were my roommates. Right? Good dudes. Taylor Herchick would drink a 5th of liquor every night. I trusted him. Absolutely. 100%. Would I trust him like with my girlfriend or whatever? No. But would I trust him overseas in combat? 100%. Absolutely. To do what is necessary. Would I trust him to be reliable in the long term? No, not really. But I would trust him to do the job, a real job like combat or whatever, when it needed done. Absolutely. So there's that sort of level of trust there. So anyway, we would live together, and yeah, it was 3 guys per room and HP 185, man. It's like a motel, right? So there's outside. The doors open outside.
Oh.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, you're not indoors. Your room, it's a motel. Your room opens outdoors. And so you would get up. Basically, you get up at 5:30 every day. PT for basically 2 hours. So exercise for 2 hours. Pretty much. Shower, come back, do some training. Learn how to call in artillery, whatever. Clean something, move a pool table with like 12 dudes or something, or do something. Then you get like 2 hours for lunch. And then you do something in the afternoon, usually some training. And then you get off at like 4:30, 5. So then you get off and there's nothing to do.
Right.
It's a lot like what I think prison is probably like. I mean, there's nothing you can do. I didn't have a car by choice. But right, like even to get off base, you got to drive like 15 miles to get off base. And then you go out in town and there's just a ton of Marines and like strippers. That's it. Like, what are you going to do? Like, this is terrible. Yeah. So I would hang around the base, play video games or whatever on my off time, work out all the time.
Do you reach a point where there's no more training to be done?
No.
No.
There's no point. There's no point that you reach that. There's better and worse stuff, but yeah, it was. There's a lot of time that gets wasted. You do nothing, you know. But we would, learn about patrolling, learn about weapons, like we learned everything about machine guns because that was my job. I don't remember everything. I still have my little book. I have a book filled with all the little stuff that we would do classes on. You do with my notes in it. 9 lines. That's how you call artillery in. I mean, shooting. But you do training in the barracks, but then you would usually have like a field op once or twice a month where you would, and then some of the training would be setting up for that, prepping for that, prepping vehicles. That's right. Yeah. I would have to go to the motor T, check over our vehicles, clean them, check them, change the oil, whatever, check the tires exhaustively, like checking things.
Yeah.
It's like a whole checklist of like 80 things that you would have to, all right, is there rust on the rear back left plate panel, whatever? Yes. How much rust? Oh, well, this much rust. It's like, I did this 2 days ago.
Right.
And before you go in a field up, you do that. After you go in the field up, you do that. And going to the field is something, right? You go for maybe 2 or 3 days. And like our first field up, for example, we went and shot fully automatic grenade launcher. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Mark 19. It's amazing. But we had to learn about the Mark 19.
Right.
It weighs, like 76.3 pounds.
Sure.
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Right. And then, it's a grenade machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, dunk, 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 dunk. And then you can watch them go through the air. And then boom, 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 boom. And you see the explosions, right? And then you hear them a minute later, not a minute, but, seconds later. And it's just so cool. It's awesome. We never got HE rounds, so high explosive rounds after that. We always got, so after that in our training, we always got blue bodies, they're called. It's just puffs of blue.
Oh.
Sucks. It's not even close. It's not even nearly as cool.
Yeah.
So the first and only time I got to shoot fully grenades out of Mark 19. It was awesome. Yeah, learn about weapon systems, AT-4, rocket launcher, practice with the tow. We did some of that. Leadership training, whatever. So it's a weird life.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Was your second deployment during your first contract?
Yes. Yeah. So 4 years usually, contracts, 4 years. And Iraq again. We went to Camp Takadum, which is where we flew in. My first tour, we went, I believe, we flew into TQ, and then we went to Ramadi. Whereas my second tour, we stayed there and we did security patrols. So that was our job. Mm-hmm. So we would drive. We had MRAPs that time, which are huge, mine-resistant vehicles, right? So they have so big, and they have like a V-shaped hull. So if there's an explosion, it kind of goes up. So it's safer, but they're terrible for off-road. So we would just patrol the highways and the roads around GQ, basically looking for bombs, just trying to get blown up pretty much. But there was no people. There weren't very many people where we were patrolling. So we were patrolling an old resort on the Lake Habaniya. That's right, Lake Habaniya. Huge lake, huge. Like, you could look it on Google Maps. Like, it's huge, Lake Habaniya. And we would patrol down to like what used to be a resort there that was pretty much empty. There's some Iraqis there, but nobody like vacationed there anymore. It's a war.
Yeah.
So we would go down and walk around and just wait to get shot at, basically. Look for stuff, look for bombs. And that's it. Find intelligence. If there are people, the lieutenant would talk to them. So that was it. And then the end of that tour, the last 2 months, which was sweet, we went to the bigger base, Al Assad Air Base, which is a little bit further northwest of TQ, like maybe 100 miles, 200 miles or something. And we still did security patrols, but we were looking for people Iraqis who would attempt to shoot down aircraft because they were letting in civilian. It was an air base, so they were directly flying civilian aircraft into Al-Assad Air Base, right? So 747 or whatever. Okay. Which before that, or at the beginning of invading, you would fly to Kuwait and then you'd helicopter into the country, right? Because if they could shoot down a plane with 500 Marines in it, that's great, for them. But we never caught anybody. But we would just bomb through the desert in Humvees, going 40 miles an hour, just driving through the desert. It was so much fun. It was sweet. So many times watching the sunrise in over the desert. And you're dead tired, but it's dang, this is cool. Covered in dirt, just gross. This is sweet. So it's cool.
Why did you decide to re-up?
Didn't know what else to do. I was planning on staying in 20 years, so I was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I like it. It's okay.
Why'd you decide to switch away from the infantry?
Marine security guard is a different job. So Marine security guard, you have more autonomy, sort of. So you live in a country and there's 5 of you.
Yeah.
Right? So most countries, there's 5 Marines guarding the embassy. Moscow, there's more than that, 30 or whatever.
Sure.
So, Moscow, the big...
Different risk.
Yeah. Cuba, there's 10.
Yeah.
I was in Cuba. So those countries where there's a higher security threat risk, so spies and all that stuff, usually there's more there. But Finland, Syria, we had 5. 5 Marines and a deck commander. So 6. He's your gunny. He's your boss. The Marine, this staff, NCO, staff, non-commissioned officer. It's like a staff sergeant or a gunnery sergeant. So anyway, to answer the question. So that job kind of gave me a little bit more freedom. So it sort of unlocked my brain a little bit in the sense of, this is what a normal job would be like, more so. You go to work, you stand post, you go home, and then you're kind of left alone-ish.
Yeah. You
still have jobs to do. You still have to do response to the embassy at 2 a.m. drills and stuff. Alarm goes off, gear up, go to the embassy, do a drill, do that 3-4 times a month. But that job, it kind of burned me out on the whole Marine Corps thing. I just didn't like it anymore. Because you join the Marine Security Guards thinking I'm going to be an elite.
Yeah.
You have a top secret clearance.
Next is at the White House, that'd be...
Huh?
They're at the White House, aren't they? So
Marine Security Guards probably are not.
Okay. I know there was a Marine detail at the White House.
So that would be a different job.
Okay.
Embassy guards are overseas, I think.
Okay.
That would be it's a Marine, but it's that would be a different, that's a presidential security detail or something like that. They talk about that in SOI, so you can volunteer for stuff like that in training. But you have to be a certain height. I think between 6'1", 6'3", or something like that. Or maybe it might be 5'11" and 6'2". I think you have to be. So my brother did drill team. So the silent drill team. That's part of the 8th and I. So he was in DC, but he did that. He was infantry, but when he was in School of Infantry, they're like, okay, you can volunteer for this if you basically look the part. You need to look like a Marine.
Yeah. And
so he did, and so he got it, and so he did that. So that was in DC. That's one of those. So it's kind of like that. Okay. So you can sort of volunteer for stuff like that.
Okay.
If you make the cut, then you can do that. Generally, those duties kind of suck. They're really hard, but they're hard in a way that's super boring. You know what I mean? It's super repetitive, super. You're just cleaning stuff, 100% of the time. You're not even really a Marine. You are, absolutely. Yeah. But you're just have you ever been to DC and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? Yeah. Those guys, their life is cleaning their uniform.
Right.
And marching silently in the snow. and not swearing and like living underground or whatever they do. You know what I mean? Like it's miserable. You know, like so. MSG was. I was frustrated because it was not elite in a sense. It was more. I spent most of my time doing paperwork, like for my extra duty, which was to throw parties. Literally, my job was what was it called? Which I'm not the guy for. If I did it again, I would be awesome. Yeah. Like if I was 30 and I went back and did it again, if I was less dumb, I would have done a great job. I would have had so much fun. But I would have really known what I was getting into, which was you're a security guard sort of, but mainly your job is diplomatic. You are a politician. You aid in politics, like almost. Like you don't have to rub shoulders with people, really. Mm-hmm. But if I just had that understanding of like, okay, I'm not really here to be an elite security force guy. I'm here to aid politicians and throw parties and be social, sort of. That was my job. I would have way more fun with it now, but it'd be so much fun now. But yeah, so embassy, like the Marine parties are a thing, like internationally for people who travel internationally, and who are part of the Department of State and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, the Marine House, Marine parties, like it's like a thing, you know. So if you go to a country, it's like, oh, is there a Marine party? Like, I guess you'd have to be in a pretty niche community to know about that. Sure. But in that community of Department of State people and stuff like that, it's very much a thing. And people just go and they get very drunk. And diplomats and like ambassadors are there. Like it's crazy when you think about it, you know. And just, you know, the guys who are responsible for our relations with the entire country, right. The United States, are there. Mm-hmm. And then there's foreign nationals who can come sometimes, like so people from the nation can come. So I never really understood any of that. I never took it seriously in the sense of I was frustrated that I wasn't an elite security guy. Yeah. And it was just paperwork and dumb crap that I had to do all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I hated it. So that's what burned me out. You know, missed expectations. Yeah. And so then I was just like, I'm just going to get out.
So did you live in housing in the country or on U.S. owned land? How did that work?
You live in the country, on the country's property. The embassy is the only thing.
Right. So I was confused. I didn't know if, like, you said you had drills. Did you have to live within a certain radius of the embassy, maybe?
That's a good question. So in Syria, we were next door. Okay. So in Syria, and also you're in the capital city usually, right? You're in the capital city, maybe always. And there's usually like a district where there's a lot of embassies. So we even have this in DC. Yeah. There's like an area.
You can walk down it and just see them on each side of the street.
Yeah. So have you been there? Yeah. Yeah. So this is the same in other countries, except you're one of the foreign embassies in that country. So it's like a nice part of town, or it's like, you know, there's tons of police everywhere. That's where the embassy's at. And then the house. So anyway, so in Syria, we were right there. We were right next to it. And so we're in that area. And so there was secret police on every corner. Yeah. With Uzis. Like, it's pretty cool. And they'd wear suits. And it's like, yep, he's obviously secret police. Not secret at all. No. And everybody knows who he is. And so we would just come out of our, like, it was like an apartment building, and we had like 3 floors of it. We had the bottom 3 floors. Mm-hmm. And we would go in, and we had a way in to the embassy compound, and then we were responsible for just one specific building on the compound. So Marine security guards actually aren't concerned with the people. We're only concerned with the secrets. Our job, the Marine security guard's job, is to protect the information, the secrets. So our job is not to protect American citizens at all. Right?
Are there people who do have that job, or?
There's local guards, actually. Okay. So they're actually local citizens who the American government hires to protect the compound. our job is to basically make sure everybody who's allowed in can get in. And if you're not allowed in, you can't get in.
Right.
And then in an emergency, it is to defend the secrets, the building where the secrets are, the top secret information. And then, like in Syria, we actually got overrun, and so we ended up destroying them. So we spent a week shredding, burning, destroying everything. Destroying printers, like breaking the motherboards and the chips and every single thing. Because you can get information out of anything.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy, like all the stuff that you can with analysis, with like data analysis, crazy stuff that countries have. It's unreal.
Oh yeah.
So you destroy everything down to every little piece. But in Finland, so like that, we lived right there. In Finland, we lived like 20 minutes away. So
it's not exactly a high risk country, though.
Exactly, right? So I think that's part of it. They're like, look, this is Finland. We're like allies. Like, we're the United States. They're Finland.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. We don't hate each other, So, but we lived, I think it was 10,000 euros a month. That's how much our house cost to rent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you get that in BAH that you just spent?
Well, we didn't pay for it.
Okay.
We didn't even pay for it. So, but we would have to, we only had one car for the Marines. You can't drive. So think about it.
Driver's license. Yeah. There's a lot of liability too. Breaking news, Marine crashed into civilians.
Exactly. Tons of liability. Like, it's like, we're not, you can't. I think they could at one time, and they're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So we had drivers to take us places. You'd have to call them and schedule, be like, look, I need to go for, he brings you to work, to post, and then that's pretty much what they do. But I mean, like in Syria, what was his name? Abiel? No. Abiel was Cuba. But you'd call up the driver and be like, yo, go get me a coffee. He'd be like, yes, sir. Go get you a latte or whatever from whatever coffee shop.
Interesting.
And come back and be like, here you are.
So how many Marines were on duty at a time? I assume
one.
Not one.
Okay. In Finland, 2.
Okay. What are the distinctions?
2 different buildings.
Oh, okay.
So in Finland, we had 10 Marines. Syria we had 5. And Cuba we had 10, 7, 8, something like that. 10. So anyway, so we had, in Finland we had 10 because it was 2 posts. You need, to do 24-hour watch.
Yeah, you need a certain amount of people.
You need 5, basically, if you're going to do it right. Because that gives somebody 2 days off a week, pretty much. Most of the time, a lot of times you don't. You have 4. And then sometimes if you have 3, you're working every day.
Yeah, it's rough.
Sucks. So that's the way the lingo goes. It's like, oh, you're 1 in 4, 1 in 3, which I don't remember exactly, but basically that means you have 3, and so you're screwed.
Yeah.
We at one point in Finland we actually had enough. Did we actually have 10? We might have had like even an extra guy, I think. And so we would end up getting like you'd work like 3 or 4 days and you'd get like 3 or 4 days off.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's nice.
It was for like 2 months or something. It's like, oh, we have so much time. Sleep so much. It was so great.
Yeah.
I worked out a lot.
How much interaction did you have with locals?
Not much for us. You could have. I mean, I wish I had a little bit more, but you don't speak their language.
Right.
Finnish, right? A lot of them speak English.
Yeah.
The interaction is usually at bars, frankly. You go out and drink, and that's where you hang out. Guys go get a girl or whatever. So I guess you do. I mean, but it's usually just going out and drinking.
Limited.
Yeah. That's how most of our experiences were. Because you generally don't get time. You can't like leave. You can't go a certain distance. You can only go like 20 miles away max. Like you can't go far away without special approval.
Did you have a officer that was with you, or was it just like all enlisted?
It's all enlisted, and then the Department of State basically fills the role of the officer. It's an RSO. I forget what it stands for. Regional Security Officer, I think.
Okay.
And so you would have an RSO who was Department of State, and he was your boss.
Okay.
But they're more like civilians. They're not military.
Yeah, so it wasn't like UCMJ type of.
No, I mean you fall under that, but
well, yeah, but
they don't.
But they couldn't court-martial you or whatever. I don't know. Maybe.
So your gunny.
He could.
He's your guy.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's a colonel in charge of a region. I think. I don't remember how the higher structure works. Everybody's pretty autonomous.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no officers. It's all enlisted.
That's interesting.
I'm not sure why they do that, but the Department of State fills that role. So
yeah.
They do a good job.
I guess you don't need an officer if you have a
federal
employee
who
is probably familiar and trained on the area. And
they're Department of State, but they're security. So they're Department of State security. So like our one RSO in Cuba, he had worked as Border Patrol before joining the Department of State, stuff like that. So, he had experience with that. I mean, police type action. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's how that works.
I had to be boring, just standing there. Watch.
I stood over 3,000 hours of watch. I did nothing for 3,000 hours. Nothing.
What do you think about during watch?
How much you hate it.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's awful. I mean, it's so boring. Yeah, it's the worst job. It's terrible.
Do you think you would have stayed in if you didn't change to an embassy guard?
Probably. Yeah. But it burned me out and I got out. But yeah, it's a terrible job. I mean, as far as the work, it's miserable. 8-hour shifts of your security guard. I mean, you just sit in a bulletproof box. And if you're on at night, I mean, your job is access control. So you have to check everybody who comes in. It's your job. Okay. Like if a spy gets in, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Like if somebody gets in who's not allowed to be in. So there's badges. There's like blue badges. I have some at the house actually. There's like blue badge, red badge, and there's areas that those badges can get people into. And
did you escort them in the?
We don't escort them, but we would allow them to get in, and then they might need an escort. So that all has to get coordinated with the RSO.
Yeah.
Right, and then our job is like we have a list, either on the computer or a paper list, and it's like, what's your name? Show me your ID. Okay. Yeah, I see you here. Yeah, you're allowed here. Here's your access level. Red badge, right? Which means like generally a red badge would be like a janitor or something. Who's somebody who's from the local country coming in to clean something. Then a blue badge would be you're an American citizen and you're allowed into, the secure areas. Like, so sometimes a president of another country might get a blue badge, but even then probably like a yellow badge.
Did you ever interact with foreign presidents?
Yeah, so when I was in Syria, the Finnish president came.
Oh, interesting.
Actually. And also on the Marine Corps ball, was she there? There's tons of high up at the Marine Corps. It's the party of the year for the American embassy, right? And there's all kinds of diplomats there. As Marines, though, you don't really care because you're not really a diplomat.
Yeah.
Your job is security, and so it ends up being a lot of fun actually because you don't even know who they are. Like you're like, I don't know.
You're the president. I don't care. Go away.
Care,
you
right?
Can't
you want
here.
to do shots? Like, I mean, are we drinking or not? Like it's basically like, no, okay, this is your country, whatever. Like, not here. So it's weird, man.
You see this in movies sometimes, and I don't know if it's true. Did you ever have United States citizens in other countries try and find refugee from like law enforcement in the embassies?
In Syria, we would have. So Syria, I mean, I was there in the whole Arab Spring thing.
Yeah.
And so there was a Department of State order, like, don't go to Syria.
Yeah.
Don't go to this country.
Yeah.
If you're an American citizen, don't go there. Like, this is a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have people who would call us and be like, I'm whomever, I'm like stuck wherever in whatever city and help me. And we'd be like, no. like, you should have left 6 months ago. Like, what are you doing? You know, like, it wasn't really our job. We would probably call the RSO and then let him deal with it.
Yeah.
But we would have people call and we would have to tell them basically, like, read the paper, like, well, 3 months ago, the Department of State issued the do not travel order. You are on your own type of thing. If they showed up at the door, did we have anybody show up? There might have been, but that would be where the RSO's job would more come into play. Mm-hmm. So like I said, we're in a separate building. Generally, that's for secrets. Like, we're not just the guard, like, on the compound. That's a local guard, actually. So the RSO is responsible for everything. So he would be the guy who would deal with that. We might get called, like, the local guard might call post 1 and be like, hey, what do I do? And we'd be like, I don't know. Well, we're gonna call the RSO, like, but they would probably just call the RSO. Yeah. So the Marines' job is to guard the top secret information, the vaults, all the secret, all that stuff. So, yeah, but Syria was the time where that was. I remember getting a phone call about it where somebody's like, I'm stuck somewhere, and I was like, that sucks, bro. Like, so there's nothing I can do to help you.
Yeah.
So
tough situation.
Goodbye. Like, our government's contemplating not even helping us. So, like, sorry, dude. Like, anyway, yeah. So not really. It's not the movies. I could see how that might happen, where somebody would, and the RSO would come out. Like, you would get in. The way it would work is you'd probably end up getting into the outer, like, checkpoint place.
I guess if you have your passport that proves you're a citizen, but
yeah, but even still, it's like, when it comes to security and secret stuff, like, it's like, do you have a right to be there? So at that point, yeah, maybe that gets you in the door.
Right.
But then the RSO is going to come out and, like, talk to you, be like, so what's up? What are you doing? Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, here's what we can do. But I think oftentimes it might be, yeah, we're not going to help you. Like, what, did you do something illegal? Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't think it would be an automatic, oh yeah, you're an American citizen, we're going to save you. I don't think that's what would happen. But maybe, I don't know. I didn't have, like I said, I only got a phone call and I was like, can't help you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Were you ever attacked or invaded in Cuba?
No, not in Cuba. No. Cuba was great. Cubans are great. I mean, communism sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's super poor. It's like third world. Like, super poor. People live in, like, metal huts. It's crazy. As soon as you get out of Havana, it's just poor. Havana's okay, but everything's old. It just feels worn. It feels like communism. Like, it feels like what you might think it would be like. It feels like the movies. Like, it does. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But so anyway, no, we didn't. I think there was a hurricane one time.
Oh, that'd be scary.
So that was one thing, because, like, you're an island, right? And if it goes over you, it's like, it's going to destroy everything.
Take you with you.
So there was a hurricane one time, and we all went to the embassy, and did we sleep there? Maybe for like a night. I don't think we ended up sleeping there, but I remember we went there and we had to, like, plan, like, okay, what if we lose power? What if this happens? How long do we have generators? This, that, the other thing. And I think we ended up planning for, like, staying there for a week, but I don't remember. I don't think we ended up staying in the embassy. Our house in Cuba was about 3 miles away, probably.
That's further than I would think it would be.
Right. It's like 10 minute drive, probably.
I was just kind of curious because obviously 40 years prior to you getting there was a lot of tension between the United States and Cuba.
Well, there still was. I mean,
yeah.
Technically, we weren't even an embassy. Technically,
really?
the Cuban embassy, it was a Swiss embassy.
Oh,
And we were
interesting.
pregnant, but I've never met a Swiss person in my life. So it's like, so technically we were an annex or something of the Swiss embassy, but the whole building was the American. I mean, but technically, we didn't have an embassy there. Right?
Interesting.
Due to some of the agreements or whatever, like the embargoes and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So we didn't have like diplomatic relations. Cuba, the risk is security spies.
Mm-hmm.
So we got special training before going to Cuba about how to resist, like, if you get interrogated. It was not great. I did not do a good job anyway. But, how to resist being interrogated, how to, what to look out for if they're trying to extract information out of you, what to, kind of special type of, like a diplomatic survival training thing.
Yeah.
And like there were people who came over to the Marine House and they were certainly spies who worked for the Cuban government. Girls, right? And there was one dude who like fell in love with these girls, and and we would always joke, we're like, bro, they're spies.
Yeah.
They are 100% spies.
Yeah.
Do not fall in love with them. Okay? It's like, because that's one of the main. It's happened in Russia. I forget the guy's name. But that was basically the biggest failure of a Marine security guard. Was a Marine fell in love with a Russian woman. They actually, I think, ended up getting married, actually, like after he got out of prison. And he ended up letting Russians into the embassy. Like, you had one job.
Yeah.
To not do that.
Right.
Like, that's it. And so he ended up screwing up. I think this was in like the 70s or the 80s. I think that was the only time in security guard history that had happened. But yeah, he either let him in or he gave him something. Which generally you don't have access to anything.
Yeah,
you don't. Your job is to make sure things are locked. That's it. Like, you don't have access to the interior parts. You have access to some stuff, but like not really all the way into stuff. Everything's compartmentalized. So at night you would end up checking. You walk around the whole embassy and you check to see if anybody left anything out. And then you fill out a form if they did, but then you put that back either into the safe or in the safe in post one if you can't get it to the original place. Like the secrets need to be locked.
Right.
The top secret stuff.
You had to shred and burn everything in Syria, though.
Syria, yeah. So that case, it was burn it. I mean, so open the drawers, open the areas, and burn it.
So what specifically happened? You said you got overrun, but
yeah, in Syria. Have I not told you that?
Mm-mm.
So, yeah. So in Syria, this was 2010 ish, and we were 5 Marines. Yeah. I remember I was on post the night before and I was looking out. So at this point, let's see, this was the whole Arab Spring thing. The embassy had already drawn down to just Americans who were needed. So like a lot of times your family's there. If you're an American citizen, you work at the embassy, your family's there in the country with you. They all got sent home like a month or two before because the tensions were getting higher. Right, the political tensions between the Middle East and the United States. And so when was this? It must have been June, I think, maybe. And so the night before I had been on post sorry, let me skip ahead. So there were protests all the time outside. And every time there's a protest, the alarm goes off at the house. We gear up with guns and we go to the embassy and then we gear up with more guns and then we stand post. There's like a method, like put checkpoint. You go to post Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and you stand there like at certain doors and entryways and stuff. That's a type of response that you train for. And so we would be doing that like every week. Just, alarm. And you don't know if it's legit or you don't know if it's a drill.
Right.
You don't know if it's legit. But it was happening all the time. For months afterwards, when I was in Cuba, I would have I would wake up in the middle of the night and hear alarms. And I'd be like, are we doing a drill? And it was nothing. like wasn't a real alarm. You know, so used to it. Like, so that was leading up to this, right? So we had all seen these protests, and sometimes it's like 2 people, sometimes it's like 30 people out front, like in a movie, right? You see the people protesting America or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like that. Yeah. And you're inside, and you got cameras, and you're watching them, and you're like, okay, is anybody trying to get over the walls? Does anybody have any weapons? You know, and you're watching the crowd, and you're like, okay, no, I don't think there's any weapons. Like, cool, all right. But likely you wouldn't, as a Marine security guard, have to respond to that. You wouldn't respond to that. Because once again, you're not concerned with, that's the outer layer. Right. You're the internal layer. So I was on post, and I remember looking at across the street, and I was watching a guy. He's kind of like, you know, like 2 buildings in an alleyway right across the street from us. And he was like sitting right in between the alleyway, just staring at us, like almost staring at the camera. Right. And I was like, that guy, something's different. Something's weird. Like he feels like angry. Something's going on. This feels different. Mm-hmm. You know, like that guy. And I remember calling the RSO and being like, hey, like his name was JR, I think. There were 2. JR was one of them. I was like, something just feels different about this. See that guy? I don't know. Something okay, yeah, whatever, maybe. You know, like, okay. But the next day, we got overrun, which was, I think I was at the house. Yeah. And the alarm goes off. I think it was in the morning. And by the time, it takes us about 2 minutes maybe to get to the embassy, 2-3 minutes maybe. So we all run in, gear up, get our shotguns, get our bulletproof vest on, and then run to the embassy. And then we get our full kit, which is M16s, you know, whatever. Mm. Shotguns and M16. Some people have an M16, some people have a shotgun. And then you have more ammo, and you have like your, you know, field aid kit and all that stuff. But by the time we basically got to the embassy, 3 minutes, there were people already over the wall. So there's a wall all around everything with concertina wire. Right, yeah. If you've ever messed with concertina wire, it's not nice. Yeah. Like, it's like little razor blades all around it, just everywhere. It's not easy to get over. It catches your clothes, all this stuff. So they had already gotten over that right when we had like gotten into. We didn't see them like in person, but right when we got in, they're like, yeah, they're already like over. Mm-hmm. They were trying to get in, and they were, you know, taking stuff. So there were probably a couple hundred people that show up, and they start trying to break in through the glass. So we have everything's bulletproof glass. Yeah. So it's like that thick, probably. Yeah, it's pretty intense. Yeah. And they're like smashing it with 2x4s, whatever, out front. There's people on the roof, Syrians. They're throwing shoes, like they're pissed, they're angry, and we're all inside. So at this point, we get inside, and we're like, "Wow, they're going to burn the building down. We're going to die." Right? Like, why wouldn't they? Yeah, that's what I would do. Like, you know, it's like I would just burn this thing down, burn it down. Well,
not like you're going to get some Syrian firefighters. Though.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it happened very quickly. That's why a lot of the intelligence people, they're like, it was coordinated. It was a coordinated government effort. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly why, but I think they wanted us they were provoking us to violence, I think, so that they would have justification to do something, to arrest us all, to kill us, whatever. So we were all inside. We're inside. We're geared up. We've got our guns. And, Beelan was down at the basement floor, and he had a shotgun. He was terrified. Yeah. And so 3 of us, I still keep in touch with them. Rivera, Marshall Truitt, who owns the MWD.
Yeah. So okay, I didn't realize
I was in Syria with him.
That connection.
Yeah, that's why. Huh. Yeah. So speaking of trust, I mean, we trust each other. Yeah. So me, Stephen Rivera, and Marshall were all infantry guys. So not all Marines are infantrymen. Every Marine are riflemen, but not all Marines are infantrymen. Like, infantrymen, it's your job to learn how to kill people, like to shoot them, like, and to do things associated with that. If you're not that's not your job. Your job might be admin. So like Beelan, I think he was like admin or motor T. So we worked on vehicles. And then there was another guy, I can't remember his name. And he was not infantry. So for us, it's like he was like terrified, right? Because his job was like, he was never trained quite to handle this. Whereas we had all been to Iraq. Like Rivera had watched his buddy get his head explode right in front of him. Like he'd seen real combat. Marshall go to Iraq? I'm pretty sure he did. We didn't go together, but we were all trained with that. So like I was not scared. Yeah. We were not scared. Us guys. It was weird. You're like, oh, finally. Part of it's like, finally. Like, this is what I've been waiting for 5 years, like to actually do something, to do my job. Yeah. I'm actually doing my job. So that was cool. And I just remember with Beelan, he was down there and he was posted up at one of the basement doors. And so they all have like fly locks on them, multiple locks, and they're huge metal doors. And I just remember looking at him and like, Beelan, hey, if that door opens, shoot them. If that door opens, shoot whoever it is. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Because like, that's it. If that door opens, we're screwed. Yeah. Like there's hundreds of people out there. Yeah. Not right at that door, but there are hundreds of people outside. Yeah. So there's an outer wall, concertina wire, and then inside wall is a building, right? Like inside the building. Mm-hmm. And so there weren't people out there. But it's like, so I remember telling him that because I was worried he wouldn't. I was like, look, it's time to kill people. Okay. If like get in your brain, like it's time to potentially kill people. Okay. Like, and, he's like, oh yeah, okay. I was like, okay. And then I was the guy, I ended up running up and down the stairs. At this point, we had planned on Rivera taking post one because he was the best at kind of coordinating. So he had all the cameras and the alarms and all the equipment and radios, and he was the best at doing that, most experienced. Mm-hmm. So we would have him do that, and then I ran up and down the stairs, and then Marshall was at the roof inside with the RSO and Gunny, Klon, our Gunny, and they were going to go out onto the roof and shoot people, basically. Mm-hmm. Because in a sense, it's an attack. Like, this is American soil, right? Like, so it's like, well, what's going on? Yeah. We need to defend this building. And I actually didn't learn this until last year when me and Marshall drank way too much and we started talking about this. And he told me the story about what happened up there on the stairs. And I had never actually heard it from him. And so once again, I'm running up and down the stairs. Mm-hmm. I'm like, make sure people are okay because there's different floors with, vaults and things like that. The different employees, American citizens and stuff who have jobs like, agencies and things who must not be named. And so I'm checking to make sure like you guys got your gas masks. Like if we're going to have to launch gas, like, you got your stuff, you got this, you got guns. Like, do you have any guns? Like, I remember handing a pistol to a guy and he just grabbed it and went, and I was like, good luck. Just looked down the barrel. I'm like, that's the exact wrong thing to do with that. And he was like the IT guy, one of the IT guys. Oh, no. Right. And so I was like, you might need this, like, and so that was kind of my role. And so Marshall was up there, him and Gunny Klon, and then JR, RSO. And they were going to go out. They were like opening the door, like unlocking one of the locks, like to go out where what we think was probably Syrian special forces. Yeah. Because they got on our roof so fast, like 3-4 stories up, concertina wire everywhere. They got on the roof in like 3-4 minutes. You don't just do that. Like, right. They're trained, know? So we probably would have escaped. Don't tell anybody I said that. But honestly, like, it would not have been good. But I think it was Gunny Klon who they're like about to open, I think, the last lock. And he like looked back. He's like, I got a bad feeling about this. And JR was like, so the RSO, who was going to go out, they were going to go out. He's like, okay, let's wait. That was it. If they had opened that door, I'd probably be dead. We'd all be in Syrian prison or whatever. I'd be dead.
Mhm.
Like, if they had opened that door. And so just because Gunny Klon was like, I've got a bad feeling about this. Like, I'm alive. It's pretty sick. I didn't know that whole story. I thought the ambassador had said, don't go out. But it wasn't. It was just like their off the cuff decision of like, no, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't go out there.
Mhm.
They didn't. And it's nuts, man. So we ended up living in the embassy for about a week. We launched gas, right, which is tear gas, basically, everywhere. I launched gas. That happened earlier. And then we spent the next, 1 or 2 days in the embassy on guard, geared up with weapons, because we didn't know if anybody was hiding on the compound, at that point. So then I think after 2 days or so, we ended up, okay, let's clear out the compound, make sure there's nobody here hiding somewhere. So we, all with guns out, we went everywhere, patrolled around inside the compound. It's like, imagine this building and the fire station and maybe one more building and then all that and walls. It'd be kind of like that, right? So we would go out and we'd look around and have to search. And so we did that. And that might have been the same day, actually, maybe 10 hours later. Maybe the next day, but there was still tear gas out there. Because I remember I went out without my gas mask on, and I couldn't breathe. I was like, Marshall's like, "You want to put your gas mask on?" I was like, "No, I'm gonna be fine." He's like, "Okay." And I immediately went out. He cracked the door, and I was like, "It's like, hold on, I got my gas mask on." He's like, "Yeah, okay." And so yeah, that was stupid. And so we ended up going out there and searching for stuff. There's nobody there. We were good. And I wish I had the picture. I had a picture. I've looked for it before, but with all of us out front and all the windows are broken. The bulletproof windows and the main front checkpoint, the edge. So that's where the local guards would be. We were all standing out front in our camouflage. That's the other thing. You never wear camouflage.
Yeah.
I mean, we did just because we were in combat mode, basically. Right. But yeah, that was probably the most intense experience I had in the military.
Yeah, I would say so.
Even more than Iraq. Iraq was new, but that was the most real, combat type experience I ever had. Was in Syria. Yeah. It was crazy. I mean, it's this is an international incident I was a part of. It's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool.
So, yeah.
What? I mean, I understand why they would go out on the roof, but why?
They stole our flag, right? They ended up taking the flag, and then they ended up returning it a week later.
That's weird.
It was super weird, and we were all there
Is it bugged?
Yeah, so they came and returned it, and we opened the door, and we were all there geared up with guns.
Yeah.
And they came in and offered the flag. We don't even have the same one. Whatever. They brought an American flag back. We're like, okay, thanks. All politics at that point.
Yeah, sure.
Above my pay grade. We were just there to be big Marine guys. The Marines are here. That's the other thing. I mean, Americans are big. Something you don't Syrians are small. Other people are small. Americans are large people. So when you go to Iraq or you go to even Syria, Finland, Finns, they're about similar size. But we're basically giants in the Middle East. Yeah. So in Asia, right? We're essentially giants. And then you add on, a Kevlar, sunglasses, some type of a mask, bulletproof vest, huge gun. And you go into Afghanistan. It's dude, we're aliens. It's got to be terrifying. Anyway, it's what is this? This war machine.
Well,
it's it's a human being. I didn't even know that. It's crazy. So, anyway, what was the question?
Just think about why they would go on the roof.
I don't know, provoke us, right? Like we thought, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't remember what this, intelligence people came up with. I remember they had talked about it and had theorized about it. But like internationally, the only thing I could think of is they went on the roof. They were provoking us. They wanted us probably to go out and to kill some people so that they could attack us harder, like actually attack us for real, like burn the building down, come in, whatever, have an excuse to attack us. But I don't know why they would want to do that. I don't know. What's Syria going to do? Like, why? They're mad. I mean, they're super pissed at America because, I mean, in a lot of ways we do suck. That's part of why I got out actually as well. I didn't really like our international. I was like, why? I don't like these wars we're fighting. I don't want to die for this stuff anymore, type of thing. I don't know. I don't know why they would. They just hate us, potentially. Which I find local people, right? It's like, even politics here. There's the 20% who love Trump or whatever. There's the 20% who hate him. There's the people who love whomever, the different political. That's the same in other countries too. Right. The majority of people, 60 to 80%, don't care. Yeah. They're just like, look, I just want to eat my chicken soup or whatever, and just work and live my life and leave me alone. Yeah. So most people you get along with. It's fine. Like they don't. I never got the sense. There was high tension. Like you could feel pressure. Like if you would go out, like, oh, Americans. Yeah. We don't like you, really. In Syria a little bit. Cuba was great. Finland was great for that. Nobody cared.
Did you ever feel threatened off duty?
Right. Like in Syria, you could feel a tension, I guess you could say. Being an American, but also being a foreigner, even. But I never felt unsafe personally when I was out.
You did have a little bit of embedded protection because if you weren't missing, someone would notice.
Well, yeah, you're a diplomat. I mean, you have a diplomatic passport. Like, so an example of that, like, you can go into an airport and you flash your passport and they're like not going to search your stuff. You go through customs and you just go through. You're like, yeah, I'm a diplomat. I do whatever I want.
Interesting.
I had bullets and I went through an airport. And they're like, yeah, we'll just take those, but don't worry about it. I didn't do it intentionally. They were in my bag. I had like bullets, like for a pistol. Yeah. And they didn't even search me looking for a gun. They're like, oh, we'll just take those. Good day, sir. like in Cuba, I was leaving and I was smuggling cigars back because they're awesome. And they're like, they scanned my bag and they were going to open it. And I remember I was coming back for either a trip or just like a couple of days of vacation or something. And this might have been actually when my grandfather died, actually. I had to go home. No, it was before that. That was before that. So anyway, I'm going back and I had like 4 boxes of cigars, Cuban cigars, that I was going to bring back for my family and whomever. And they scanned my bag. They were going to see it. They pull me into a room. They're literally opening the bag, which it's illegal. I can't do that. And then a guy runs in and I'm just standing there like, I wonder what's going to happen. And guy runs in and he's like, Diplomatica. And she's like, we're good. That's it. I was like, thanks. Just went on the plane. Yeah. Right. So and you have a black passport. It's black. Huh. And actually I have it. I know they won't be able to see this, but I think I have it. Yeah, there it is.
Wow.
So
diplomatic passport.
Yeah, man. It's like a get out of jail free card. Like they do not screw with you. Like the police, like you can't get pulled over, like nothing.
Wow.
So
you look a lot different without all the hair.
Right? Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that's got my visas, right? So that's where in your passport you get your visa approved.
So would this work Even today?
No, it's expired.
Okay.
So I need to get a normal passport.
Yeah. There's Syria in here. More Syria. Turkey? Is that Turkey?
Is it? Maybe. Just to go through there, maybe.
Yeah.
Kazakhstan's probably in there. I was going to go to Kazakhstan originally. But then I had like heart palpitations or something, and they're like, we're going to send you to Finland instead. Because we don't want you to have a heart attack in Kazakhstan. I was like, okay.
Here's Jordan.
So we evacuated Syria to Jordan.
Okay.
So we evacuated the embassy to Jordan.
That was going to be my next question if you got out.
We drove out.
You just abandoned the building?
Yeah. But it was like 6 months later.
Yeah. Here's Kazakhstan. What? I'm guessing it. Yeah, Republic of Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
I don't know what this...
Cuba's probably in there.
Yeah, I found Cuba.
The
Proroga? It's the Spanish. I should know what that means.
I think that's Cuba.
Okay.
But it might be something else, like a trip, like when I left and came back or something.
Yeah.
So they sign you in, and they look at your passport, and they look at your picture, and they make sure you're, it all matches up.
Yeah, 2013.
And then...
It's crazy.
So, another life.
Yeah. So, you get out, your contract ends. Where do you end up? What do you do?
Yeah, what did I do? Dude, let me tell you what. Getting out of the Marines was the best. I remember driving off the base and being like, I don't have to come back. It's probably exactly how people who go to prison feel. It's like, I don't have to come back. Because in the military, like, if you don't come back, you, like, go to jail. Mm-hmm. Like, it's AWOL. Yeah. It's illegal for you to not come back. Right. Like, you can't do that.
Right.
So, after doing that for 8 years, where it's like you have to always come back. Whereas when you get out, you're like, I can go anywhere I want. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy. It was such an incredible feeling of freedom, of like, I'm just driving and I can go wherever I want. So that was awesome. I ended up going back to Maine this was November of 2013, I think. What did I do? College. I had already started signing up for college. Went to University of New Hampshire for a year and a half. I was going to study either IT or nutrition. So that's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking, well, I can either be like a nutritionist, fitness type. I like fitness, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Or I can do computer work. It's kind of because that's another passion. So basically, I picked my hobbies and turned one of them into a job. Yeah. That was where I am now. I mean, I picked computers and turned it into a job. Right. But then I was thinking along those same lines through college. But then I had actually started to settle on economics, wanting to study economics, which I kind of would if I were. I mean, I'm doing cybersecurity. Well, sort of. Not really. I was doing cybersecurity. But I would probably rather do economics, although it's pretty math heavy.
Yeah, it is.
But I do find it fascinating how money works, and I did then too. Mm-hmm. Economics was my favorite class.
There's an interesting movie called Out of Time, where your currency is time, and you're born.
Oh, I've seen this. Yeah, with Yeah,
with Olivia Wilde and that one dude.
It's a fun movie.
It is, and I've thought about it a lot. I watched it a couple months ago, and just the way that you're always losing time, and which means you're always losing money.
Yeah,
it's just interesting.
And then there's the rich people who have unlimited time.
Right. Unlimited money.
So I mean, what did you come to with any conclusions? I had never really thought too deeply about it, but I get where you're coming from. Did you ever come to a conclusion?
I mean, time is money, obviously, but like...
sort of not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, it just made me realize time is a lot more valuable than I had once thought. But also, this is more analytical than philosophical, but at the end of the movie where main dude, I can't remember his name, and his girlfriend they were both within like 20 seconds of dying.
Yeah.
And they were running to the car. She was like, "Take my time." Well, if she would have given him all his time, only he would have been burning time, which would have decreased the amount of time that was burning.
Oh, interesting.
And the more people there are, the more time that's burning. And also, where does the time come from? Because you have a limited supply. There's obviously a finite amount of time, but where does it come from? And it's always burning. Like, imagine if we just burned $1 million of US dollars each day.
Yeah.
What that would do to the economy. So just studying that movie from an economy standpoint.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I
hadn't thought of it that way with like the fact that there's more people also means there's more time wasted, I guess you could say. Wasted. Yeah. But then, I mean, is it wasted because they're people?
Right, yeah. And I'm not saying it's wasted, but like,
right.
If the time would be spent at a lesser rate with less people. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it's just interesting mathematically how that works. I'm not smart enough to figure out.
Yeah. Well, so there was a video I watched recently that's different but similar in the fact of food. Mm-hmm. Right? So nothing about money, but food, and everybody needs to eat. And that's pretty much our burn, right? We have 3 days of water, pretty much 3, 4, 5 days, whatever, and then you're dead.
Yeah.
And then 40 days, something, whatever, of food, and then you're dead. Mm-hmm. Starved to death. So that's our clock, right? So humans are on a 3-day water clock and a 40-day food clock, pretty much. And there was a German guy, in the late 1800s, I want to say, the guy who invented fertilizer. So what do they use in fertilizer? It's
manure.
It's a way to make nitrogen.
Yeah, okay.
It's a way to mass produce nitrogen. Mm-hmm. So before that, you would have to get nitrogen from crap, poop, right? From like birds in the ocean. Like they would go, and ships would go and get this, and it was super nitrogen rich. And then he came up with a way to either synthesize or however basically mass produce nitrogen. And then that allowed for fertilizer.
Right.
And then I think the population since then went from like, the global population went from like 300 million or something to now like 7 billion in like 200 years. Yeah. Or like 150 years or whatever it was. So it's like you increase the food supply. Now you can afford to have more people. Yeah. Which I thought was kind of amazing. Yeah. That I never learned about that, but it's like fertilizer. Fertilizer is why there's so many people.
Mm-hmm. I've never thought about that either.
And it's okay because we have enough food.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the other thing with like population, there's too many people or something. Well, it's like, okay, just invent something else that makes it work.
More food.
Whatever. Yeah. Like, this is not a hard problem, I feel like. Yeah. Figure it out. We can figure this out. Like whatever.
Yeah, this also, like in biology, there's this concept of like carrying capacity for an environment.
Okay.
So how many organisms or individuals an environment can support just based off the amount of resources. Because due to the laws of thermodynamics, every time there's an energy transformation, someone's lost its heat. So you have a finite supply of energy that can feed a finite amount of people.
Yep.
And it all comes from the sun. Yep. Because of photosynthesis and whatever. Well, by extending that, there is a set number of people that the Earth can support.
Yep.
Because we're just one big environment, right? If you can generalize or make it abstract on a small scale, you can make it on a big scale.
Yep.
So part of the question that scientists are trying to answer is, what's that number? Because you can go above for a short time, but it'll quickly come back down.
Yeah.
So the question is 8 billion or 7 billion, is that the limit? Or will we keep growing? And I don't know.
What did they have a?
No, there's no conclusion.
Oh, okay. Well, right. I think it would. So it stabilized at 300 million because there wasn't fertilizer.
Right.
Right. In essence, and probably other things too.
And they made the energy transfer more efficient. Right. Less was lost.
Yeah.
So more was able to go into humans. Therefore, more humans were able to live.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then the internet, I mean, basically does that for knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? So that happens for food. Penicillin does it for medication, for health. Right? Antibiotics.
Yeah.
I mean, antibiotics, like,
revolutionize medicine.
I mean, it's magic,
yeah.
essentially. It's just insane. And then the internet does that for knowledge. Like the fact that if I have a problem with my car, I could figure it out within minutes.
Probably.
Right. I could at least identify, the problem or whatever. Or if I say, okay, my transmission broke.
Yeah, but it's still
how to replace my transmission.
Amount of energy that's been spent to identify that problem has been massively reduced.
How? And so what do you mean with that?
So like, this may be a little bit esoteric, but like before the internet, you'd have to call a mechanic, have them come to you, or you somehow get the vehicle to the mechanic. That's a lot of actual energy that is being spent. Now, tap, 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 read,
Well, so here's the thing. So think about this, though, too, on the other side of that. If we think about energy, is it a savings of energy? How much energy does it take for that to be possible?
Right, via the internet. So I don't know how to transform how much energy did this web request cost, and could this web request feed 4 people?
Yeah. Well, so there's a thing. AI now.
Yeah.
Is an AI search takes, I think it's 16 times, something like that, the energy of a Google search. Right? Because they got to use the GPU, the thinking, whatever. It has to do all the thinking. And that's 16 times, 16x more. And so data center energy consumption is going to quadruple in like 2 years.
Yeah.
It's a problem. Like, it's a real problem. Like, it's a problem we created by creating AI, but it's like, now what? We're I mean, to me, it's like, I think nuclear is going to be.
Yeah, that's what I want to study.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I hope. I was just watching a video about like micro nuclear reactors or whatever, like small nuclear reactors, and I think it'd be sweet.
Have one in your chest like Iron Man.
Yeah, right. Maybe not that close, but I think a town, or like a county would have a nuclear reactor. Powers the whole county.
Infinite energy.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, it's like, I think that'd be sweet. Anyway, yeah. I would like nuclear to be. There was a ship, a nuclear passenger ship they made.
Really?
I was watching a video about it. What was the name of it? Was it 1964?
Really, that early?
Yeah, in the 60s.
Huh. When did the first?
Might have been 62.
Nuclear Navy submarines and carriers.
I don't know.
I don't know
maybe around the similar time. But it never took off.
Jimmy Carter was involved in the first few nuclear submarines with the Atomic Energy Commission. His book is really good.
What is it?
Jimmy Carter's.
What's the name of the book?
It's just like Jimmy Carter Reflections at 90 or something. He wrote it a couple years ago. He's 100 now. I don't know if you saw that.
He's alive?
Yeah.
What?
He's the oldest living president, like, ever. He just turned 100 like 4 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he wrote the book when?
At 90, I think.
Oh, so like 10 years ago?
Yeah. It's a really good book. Covers like his time at the Naval Academy, presidency, governancy, whatever. Nuclear stuff that he did.
So the 70s?
Yeah. But anyways, he was involved in the first nuclear submarines and nuclear aircraft carriers, and that was
in the 80s and 70s.
Probably earlier than that, because he was governor. He was a state representative, then a governor, then president. So yeah, about the 60s, I guess, mid 60s is. Yeah. So yeah, that tracks. I didn't know that.
It's pretty sweet, and it actually looks pretty sweet. I'm trying to remember the name of the ship, but it didn't work because of regulations. Not on our side, but. So think if you're another country.
You don't want a bomb sitting in your port.
That's exactly what they thought. They're like, what are we going to do if your reactor melts down in our port?
Yeah.
And like stuff like that made it unviable.
And now we have nuclear submarines.
We have nuclear subs, but the reason I was looking into it because I was looking into just for fun this weekend. I was watching videos about how container ship engines are built. Right, they're huge. Right? Their cylinders are 3 feet wide. That wide, one cylinder, and they burn heavy fuel oil. It's like basically like raw oil, I think, and it's super toxic. Like super, super, super toxic. It's like the worst thing you could burn, basically.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right. And so they're moving ships to use liquefied LNG, liquefied natural gas, which has to be kept at negative 200 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Right, to stay liquid. And so I was like, oh, interesting. That's pretty cool. And then I just kept going down that path. And I was like, why? We have nuclear aircraft carriers. Yeah. Why are container ships not nuclear powered? And then I found that video about it. And it's that reason that everybody's just afraid of it, basically. And liability.
In the 50 or 60 years that the Navy's had nuclear reactors in their vessels, they've never had an accident.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat safe. But
it's
a very highly qualified group of individuals. But
it's totally doable. That's the thing. It's like nuclear. I think in our lifetime, probably more your lifetime, that's probably going to be one of the big comebacks.
Yeah.
I think nuclear, if you were to get into nuclear, it would probably be a good idea.
I think there are 2 new reactors that are opening on the East Coast within the next 10 or 20 years.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Be sweet. And the smaller reactors, right? The micros. I mean, this is all feasible. This is all doable stuff. So it'd be cool. I would love. I find infrastructure interesting.
Yeah, me too.
Like if I was a billionaire, like I say this all the time, I wish I could get trains to come back. For travel, like for civilian travel, or something like. I just find shipping, how that works, internet. How it actually works. Like the internet's very local. It's not global.
Right.
It is, but it's because of all the local agreements. Like, Surrey Fiber and then whomever. I guess Musk's thing.
Yeah, Starlink. Yeah.
Starlink. I guess it kind of changes the playing field a little bit.
It does. Something like 70% of all satellites are now owned by Musk.
Well, just because he put 70% of them up there, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's true. There are thousands and thousands of Starlink satellites.
So, you guys have it, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah?
I would recommend.
Yeah?
For sure.
What's the upload speed?
300.
Upload?
Yeah. 300 symmetric.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How much does it cost?
$100 a month.
What?
Yeah.
And then you have like a $600 bay station thing, right?
Yeah.
But still.
But compared to our $100 a month for 20 down, 2 up.
You guys are doing so bad. Dude, that's it. Can you host on it?
Oh yeah, you have to work around some things, but like I have a VPS in New York, where I have a VPN from my house to the VPS, and all the traffic exits out of the node in New York. So if Oracle wanted to screw me, they could. But
interesting. How do you set that up? You just do a
Yeah, so I route between the VPS and Fedora, which is my reverse proxy, and I forward any traffic coming to the VPS to the reverse proxy and vice versa, and it just communicates. It's magic. Don't ask me how it works because I don't know.
I was gonna say I need you to show me how you did that because I would like to do that because I would like to be able to.
It's a distributed network, and that's what when I worked with you, like that summer 4 years ago, that's what I was dreaming of, like a distributed network. My house and somewhere else across the country, and it didn't really exist at the time, the technology to do it, but now it does. And
what did you use?
WireGuard.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a point-to-point VPN. You didn't use something like Tailscale or anything.
No, but you can.
But you could.
Yeah. Tailscale would make it way easier. And I've actually thought about moving to Tailscale because it would be easier, and you can self-host Tailscale now. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it open source?
Mm-hmm. It's alternative, but the developers for Tailscale maintain it. So it's basically Tailscale. And they get,
it's the other one. It's the open source one.
Yeah, but you can use the Tailscale apps with it.
Oh. Oh.
So like the API is exactly the same. You're just not paying Tailscale to do it for you.
Oh. Yeah, I want that. I need to figure that out.
So you go back to Maine. You're in college. You told me a couple of years ago that you were friends with the math majors.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. They're so smart.
Yeah.
They're the smartest people, math people.
Yeah.
David 50 was one of them. He just texted me a couple months ago saying like, "Hey, Jared, I haven't talked to you in 8 years." I'm like, "Oh, David 50," and he was so smart. They were so smart. So I would go to the math center all the time just because I was so dumb. And I was doing math. I had to do math for economics, right, or even for IT stuff.
Yeah.
So I got up to calculus 1 or whatever, and I got a D in calculus. But I spent hours. I would go to the math center every day to try and be like, my brain just could not do math. Right, just couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And they would help me learn how to do it. So, but anyway, through that, going there, they would play cards once a week. Mm. And this was so much fun, man. So at Ellen, she was like the old math teacher, been there for 30 years, and she ran the math center. Mm-hmm. And there were students would teach other students. So it's kind of like what you're doing with IT, but a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they got paid or not. I think they might have, but they would help. They would tutor students. And anyway, so we would, after me being there all the time, I was the only non-math guy, I think, who would hang out with them, and we would play cards, and it was so much fun. Sometimes we'd play cards till like midnight. No alcohol, no drinking, just playing cards, playing spades, playing hearts. And that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. I would like to do something like that here. I should. Yeah. Cards are a lot of fun. I recommend not like, like actual bicycle card deck card games. Spades, hearts, rummy, it's just so much fun. Because they're games that there's strategy and you can think about them, but there's just such a perfect balance of it's something to do, but you can still talk and have a conversation, but there's a little bit of competition going on and you want to win, anyway, yeah. So anyway, I would hang out with them and they would teach me math, and I was so stupid. I still am stupid. Math is so hard, but so useful. You could tell the future, basically. Think about it. Like you could build this whole building without actually building the building with math. Yeah. It's the thing that makes everything work. Like math. It's magic. Math is magic. It's amazing. So anyway, yeah, it's sweet. Anyway, what's next? What else you got?
Before AlthaTech really took off, what did you do?
Took off.
Yeah.
Strong words.
Oh no, but you do it full time now, right?
I've been doing it. Yeah,
you have for the.
Well, I've been doing it full time since I got to quit college.
Right. So, but at what point did you really have a business instead of an idea?
At what point did I? Well, the idea was. Yeah, I don't have to go into too much detail.
It's up to you. If you want to talk about it.
Took a psychology course, or not psychology, philosophy course in college. And then I decided to quit college after taking philosophy. So there's that. And so I quit college after my third semester. Mm-hmm. Moved to Seattle, Washington on a whim, basically. I was like, I'm going to move to Seattle. I'd been there the year before, stayed there for 6 weeks with Marshall because he got out of the Marines after me. Mm. And then we drove cross country and I took him. I stayed with his parents for 6 weeks, him and his parents. And they're like, hey, you want to stay here? I was like, sure. And they're like, oh, okay. So I ended up staying for like a month and a half. And so that was my exposure to Washington State. Came back, did college, finished up some college. And then after a year and a half. I was like, I hate this. And so quit college and moved to Washington, Seattle, though, which is further west. They were in Spokane. And then I moved to Seattle. On a whim, didn't have anywhere to live, didn't know anybody. I knew some people that were further south. I had met them once. I don't know where. And, I mean, frankly, this is kind of a miracle. Like, I attribute this to like a God thing, is everything worked out perfectly. Mm-hmm. Like, my dad came out with me. He's like, and I was like, you got to do it. He's like, okay, whatever. And looking back, it was so stupid. But everything worked out. Like, randomly found a place to live on, like, somebody found it on, like, Facebook or something. Mm-hmm. And the people I ended up staying with were, like, the perfect people. Just wonderful people who mentored me. He was a network marketing guy, Dennis and Livian Brink. Stayed with them for about 6-7 months, and he taught me about sales and network marketing. So I was part of a network marketing company, and I started kind of messing with that. And then as part of that, I was like, I only get like 28% max return on this whole business thing with this network marketing company. It's like, I want 100%. So that was, and I had started to think about the IT, I had actually started to think about, why don't I just start an IT company a year before in Washington? But it wasn't even an idea at that point. It was like, it was barely an idea. I guess it was an idea, but it's like, nothing came about a year later. But then I moved back home, after, basically 7-8 months. I worked as a security guard, guarding apartment buildings, which was kind of boring, but kind of cool, right? Like, guarding a downtown apartment building in Seattle, and go up on the roof and look at the city. It was super cool. That's neat. Super weird, super sketchy. Like, yeah, that I felt like the earlier question about, did you ever feel like worried about like the people that midnight downtown Seattle guarding an apartment building? Yeah, felt like somebody's gonna stab me. Like, not from there, like, don't know how a city feels, really. Yeah.
Even Mount Airy is barely a city.
Yeah. Yeah. No. This was huge. Seattle. I mean, it was. But anyway, it was cool, and did that for like 2-3 months. Sold nice watches, because I was a security guard at the watch store, and then ended up. I was really good with the people. I would talk to the customers and be like, "Hey," because I was so bored, and I wasn't supposed to. And I would talk to people and ask them about watches, and I was just trying to learn about it. And the manager was like, "Yeah, you should work for us. You'd be good at sales." I was like, "Okay." So I did that. Quit security. Worked at the watch store for 2-3 months. And then had a big disagreement with all the watch people. They told me to lie to customers about stuff, and I was like, "I'm not going to lie to my customers." And they're like, we had like an argument. It was weird. I was like, "But why? Why would we lie to them?" They're like, "Well, you have to make it sound like it's more rare than it is." Yeah. So they're like, "If we have 3 of them in the vault, you say this is the last one." Right? And I was like, "I'm not going to do that. If we have 3, I'm just going to tell them there's 3. Yeah. There's still only 3. Right. Like, what are you talking about? There's still only like 100 in the whole world. Right. Like, what are you, right? I mean, these are like, this is still pretty unique, These are $80,000 watches. Like, what? Who cares? And so I got in a big argument, and that kind of was like, okay, maybe this isn't. I don't know. And then I was like, I just gotta go home. I'm going home. And so we quit that. Manager was sad. We got along really well. But same reason, right? He actually, what got me to quit there was the manager. I forget his name now, but he sat me down. He's like, "Look, Heath, you're good at this. You can be good at sales. You have a, he's like, in 3 years, you'd be a manager of a store. 3 to 5 years. Like, you could have full benefits." He's describing this to me, right? Like, it's benefits. A great thing. Full benefits. You could get paid, basically probably $80K a year or something to manage a watch store or something. Yeah. And he just basically he laid out the path that was the only path, and I was like, I don't want to know. This sounds so boring. I'd rather not know. Right. And so that just killed it for me when he laid it out for me. Like, this is how this works. Like, this is your path.
Yeah.
Like, this is how this works. If you work here, this is what's going to happen. And it's like, well, this is so boring. And so I quit basically 2 weeks later. Gave him my notice and was like, I'm going home. Sorry.
Yeah.
And that's when I started AlthaTech for real. Me and my brother had sort of done it. We had one client, but then when I was in college, but it never really turned into anything. So I started again. Had a couple customers out of my parents' basement, literally living in my parents' basement. Mm-hmm. Bought some servers that I still use today. Yeah. Down there.
The blades?
Not the blades, but the R720s.
Oh, yeah.
Roxanne and Janice is newer.
Yeah, I remember when we got Janice.
Yeah, Roxanne and... What's the other one?
Roxanne was here when I got here.
Roxanne is one of the OG ones that I had. I bought 2, I believe. And the other one, what's the other one? What did I do? Maybe it was Janice. Beverly might have been the one that I bought when I was here.
Oh, yeah, that might be it.
Beverly's old. We don't use Beverly. Yeah, Roxanne and Janice. So I bought those 2 R720s. Still use them today as my NASAs now. Mm-hmm. Started a hosting company, right? The whole concept was own the data, protect the data, serve the data. That was my idea. Worried about censorship. I don't know why. Part of it was a hobby. Like, I thought it was cool. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to do it. But I never really, kind of like the Marines, I never really thought about it ahead of time. It's like, seems cool. I'm going to do this. And I want to own it. I want to own it. I don't want to just make money. I want to do it for real.
Yeah.
Know how it works.
Yeah, that's...
And so, here we are. I guess it works.
It does work.
But it was full time for me from then. We started doing production work. So Coach Dave, still have him as a customer.
Wow.
But he was my first customer on the creative side. So basically I did 2 tracks. Mm-hmm. I learned everything I could about live streaming video and creating live stream content live. So producing live streams. And then secondarily was hosting websites, server work. So those are my 2 skills that I decided to go down. Mm-hmm. And we still do it today. And now I'm actually getting back to my roots more, which when I was in the Marines and stuff was not as a job, but as a hobby, was playing with computers.
Yeah.
Not servers, not... So now I set up Linux on laptops and stuff, which I remember being in Iraq the second time, installing Ubuntu on a piece of crap Toshiba laptop, and the video drivers didn't work.
Yep, of course.
Still doesn't work.
Yep,
probably.
Still don't work.
The video drivers didn't work, and I gave up. But I tried it for days. I was like, I'm going to try this Linux thing. Ubuntu, what's that?
Yeah.
Ubuntu, that seems like the one. Mm-hmm. And so that I've always loved playing with computers and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so now I do it more than full time. I mean, now we have, with this project, we have more work than me and Spencer can do, pretty much. I mean, we're at the edge.
Yeah.
So yeah, creative work. And then the niche, the market is hard right-wing, Christian conservative, political speech clients, pretty much. So back to the trust comment. That's all, that's all what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's trust. My whole business is built around this concept of trust and privacy. And I'm a human being, who owns your data for you, represents you, mm-hmm. and I will not turn you off without letting you know, at least in advance.
Yeah.
In a significant advance, and allowing you time to move to something else.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to do what YouTube does, which is delete your channel or whomever. That's pretty much my business proposition on the server side and the creative side. Mm-hmm. So on the devices side, it's more of a business. It's more about making money. But it's about privacy. It is about privacy now.
And that's something you've worked on since I've known you.
The privacy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a component. I never was able to businessify the privacy thing. Mark Shontario, he has, he's, fight back a bit, get off big tech. Mm-hmm. I approached get off big tech from the server side.
Right. Yeah.
Get off big tech, host your own data. Mm-hmm. He's doing get off big tech, use your own Linux private devices.
Yeah.
Which I do that as well. I've done that.
Mm-hmm. You've even used the flip phone.
Yeah, right. I still have it, I think. How long? Do you remember how long I used that for? Was it 1 year?
Yeah, probably a year.
It was about a year, right?
And one day I texted you, and you said you would text me from a Linux phone. I was like, oh, so you abandoned the flip phone?
Yeah, I gave it up, man. It was too hard to text.
Yeah.
Everybody texts. So, and I still don't text very well. I don't do it. But, yeah, anyway, that's kind of the short version of the past 10 years. 9, 10 years. I don't really recommend it, to be honest. Running a business. Everybody on YouTube and stuff makes it out to be like this great, oh my God, if you're a man, you run a business, you lift, and you do whatever. I'm not, or not,
Yeah.
Like being an entrepreneur, whatever, dude, who cares?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that important. I think you're better out, like, personally. Like, if you can be content working a job, do that. Because the stress that comes with running a business and managing payroll and stuff, unless it's like part of who you are, like these guys on YouTube, they do it because they love it. Like they want to do it. Yeah. I'm not that guy. I don't love running a business. I like the work, and it's more I can't see myself doing anything else. That's where I'm at. Like, I like computers. I like technology. I like privacy. I like everything that I do, and I know I can't get that anywhere else probably. Yeah. But like if somebody came up and they're like, I want to buy your business, like even this Terrio guy, if he's like, I want to be like, okay, please do. Like, thank God. Like, please buy it, So I'm not so about business. But, right, I mean, you've worked for me. It's pretty cool.
It is.
It's kind of fun.
You push technology to its limits?
I'd say so. In the small term, right? In what an individual can do, probably.
Yeah. What you have downstairs is pretty innovative.
Well, is it? I mean, it's self-hosting. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe in a way. What do you think? I mean, I'm kind of curious. So have you heard about what's happening with Telegram?
Yeah, CEO arrested or something.
But then they're like giving up all the information that the whole point of Telegram was like, we aren't going to do that.
Yeah, I've never trusted Telegram.
But I mean, so that's the question. So what do you trust in technology? What can you trust?
I trust the math. And you and I talked about this with Bitcoin a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's verifiable. You verify, don't trust. That's the whole slogan. And with like Signal, it's verifiably encrypted. It uses end-to-end encryption technologies where only you have the key, which means only you can read what you have.
Yeah.
With Telegram, that is never the case. And I didn't trust that.
So where does self-host? So my question is, because I've always been a proponent of, right, so on the one hand, own the data, protect the data, serve the data. Mm-hmm. What is owning data? I guess kind of the big one.
Having it.
Or is it having the encryption key?
Yeah. Well, like, because you can upload encrypted data to Google, and you're the only one that can access it. But then the question is, do you really own that? And I don't know the answer to that.
See, so with blockchain and distributed systems, IPFS, right? It's probably going to change. Torrenting, right? And basically encrypted torrenting. Mm-hmm. And then there's a key, and then that's kind of so everybody shares their storage space, and then you can access it that way. There's arguments, but see, I've always been a proponent. So that's on the one hand. I'm sort of, even still now, I'm on the proponent of geography matters.
Yeah, I think so too.
And so you need to physically own it.
If I can't touch the drive that it's on, I'm not super comfortable with it.
Exactly, right. And so that's where I'm at, and that's where I'm still at. And even with all the cool, like we said, IPFS, and then there's other distributed storage options that are encrypted and all that stuff. I'm trying to think of, there's one in particular, but I can't remember the name. But it's like, those are all complicated.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, the idea is, well, I'm just going to put a server in my basement and then freaking own it that way.
Yeah.
Like, it's simple.
Yeah.
It's a simple concept.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did. That's what I do. That's what we do. So it's like, I'm just going to own it. And then what I need to do is offsite backups, especially after the hurricane stuff. Like,
yeah, I really never even considered a natural disaster, because I had considered hard drive failures, big deal. Fire, okay, it might survive, but hurricane, that's just
flood. I mean,
you can't.
This place gets flooded, right? So it's like me and Cole are working on that. We've been slowly working on that, and we might add a third location in Maine.
Okay.
Because my parents actually have fiber now.
Wow.
They have gigabit fiber. Sweet. And it's legit. I tested it when I was up there.
Maine gets it before Carroll County does.
Yeah, right. It's way off in there.
Yeah.
But that makes it viable.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you can host stuff if you have fiber. That's pretty much my standard now. Like, if you don't have fiber, although maybe Starlink.
Latency's high.
Is it like what? Like hundreds?
No, 75, 80.
Yeah, like, that's not great.
No.
For like a website. If you're serving a website and every request is 80 milliseconds of delay,
it definitely
that sucks.
impedes the experience.
Right? Because there's 500 requests,
right,
and each one of them takes 80 milliseconds.
Yeah, I can't handle high volume traffic.
It just doesn't work?
Not well, no. There's noticeable lag.
Yeah, see, that's no good.
Yeah.
Like, here we have like 2, sometimes 1 millisecond.
Yeah. That's amazing. And there's extra geography, because like I could be in with how the networking works out, which is super unfortunate. I'm in my house. The server's in the basement. I still have to go out to New York and back twice.
Yes, yeah.
So that increases everything.
Oh, and that's, you have to do that if you're doing it on Starlink. Mm-hmm. So you're doubling the latency.
Mm-hmm.
More than doubling.
Oh, it depends on your point of reference, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a perfect solution by any means.
If you're in New York, it's faster, sort of.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sure.
Kind of. But anyway. But you can use CDNs. There's all kinds of caching that you can do.
Yeah, but then that goes back to trust. Like, CDN could potentially misrepresent you somehow, or...
Yeah, but I think, so basically what we're talking about, though, is, in essence, I would argue, is data at rest.
Yeah.
Sort of at rest and usable. So, like, where's your database,
mm-hmm,
right? Where's your files?
Yeah.
At rest, and then I think caching. You have to have caching, especially for video files. So
yeah, that's true.
Like, we used Bunny CDN for a long time. I've gotten off of AVideo now and use PeerTube for customers now.
Okay. Really, I wouldn't have thought you would have gotten off of AVideo.
It's like any open source project, right? With one guy, it's just like my business. Frankly, it's just not quite stable enough for prime time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not quite stable enough for the big boys.
Yeah,
that's open. It's always that way. Somehow Linux broke through on the servers themselves, right? Literally on the server architecture, like. Okay, yeah, Debian or whatever can run in enterprise environments.
It also had Microsoft and Google and whoever backing it,
Yeah. And whereas AVideo, it's one guy in Brazil.
Yeah.
And the problem more comes from he can change stuff too fast. We're talking about speed, right? Slow, smooth, fast. He can make decisions and change stuff too fast, so it's unstable.
Yeah. And that's a lesson I have to learn, because I still have several open source projects that I've kind of distanced myself from because of school. I just don't have the time to maintain them. Yeah. And people will submit pull requests, and I want to merge them. And sometimes I do it too quickly, and it breaks something because I haven't given it enough time to think. I haven't thought about it enough. I haven't tested it enough.
Yeah.
I haven't been slow with it, so it's not very smooth.
Yeah. Well, right. There's slow, and then, I wouldn't say laziness. Obviously,
yeah. Well, yeah.
You just don't have the ability. You're distracted, or you don't have the ability to concentrate on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. Probably 90% of open source projects are that.
Yeah.
Right. 95%. But that's why when you pick an open source project, you need to pick a well-supported one. Mm-hmm. Like even Nix, old, but they're having problems.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's like, dude, that's an old project, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So you got to go with like Fedora, but they're backed by Red Hat, right? So it's like all the other side of it too. When you think about open source, is
Which corporation would you like to sell your soul to?
like it's better than Windows, but it's still basically corporate backed. And when you look at like the Fedora project, the people on their board of directors type thing, it's like half of them are Red Hat employees.
Yeah. How's that work?
Like fully half of them. And now at least it's only half.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But it is half. And so anyway, it's fun though. I haven't thought much about open source. So yeah, for listeners, I guess we run our whole shop on as much open source as we can. Using things like Nextcloud, running our own servers, using things like we Jellyfin server for entertainment stuff, using things. We run our own DNS server now.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Open
I'm a sponsor for that. What?
Open DNS?
No. It's some random single guy,
of course,
Indian dude. It's kind of like a video, but I guess DNS is a lot easier to deal with because it seems very stable.
Yeah,
and it runs on I think .NET framework or something like the Microsoft thing. Or whatever.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Under the hood, it's weird.
That's a reason enough for me to avoid it.
Yeah, it's probably what that guy knows.
Yeah,
but he anyway. So DNS servers, WordPress, right? Our own WordPress websites.
A lot of WordPress.
Lots of WordPress. Probably 80. We have 84 websites.
Docker still.
Yep, Docker under the hood. Debian under the hood there.
ZFS and OpenNAS or TrueNAS.
TrueNAS. Yep, TrueNAS is amazing.
Yeah.
ZFS is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like open source. I love the idea of a community built software. Mm-hmm. I do think it's probably the future.
Oh yeah, it's proved
it kind of has to be, right? Like
everything corporately produced is gone to crap.
So. Yeah, it's so community. But once again, most projects that are successful are corporate backed.
Yeah. In
some form or fashion.
But the difference is funding versus development. When real people who use it do the development, it's different.
Yeah, that's fair. So Europe is doing a lot of funding of open source projects.
Yeah.
Like I think they gave a bunch of money to either GNOME or KDE.
Yeah, Brazil is actually completely moving their public government computers to Linux, I think.
Germany is as well.
Yeah. And the French government, there's this Excel alternative. It's really popular. I can't remember the name of it, but the French government uses it and gives a lot of money.
OnlyOffice or OpenOffice or Libre?
No, it's specifically like a spreadsheet alternative.
Oh, okay.
It's huge. It's got a bunch of features. Huh. But the French government gives a lot of money each year to the development team just to keep it up and running. And it's a really good piece of software now.
It's open source.
Yeah, it's open source.
Right. So there's a lot more stuff. I mean, gaming is getting more popular on open source.
Yeah. Steam Deck is.
You have Steam Deck?
I do not.
I want to get one, but I know I wouldn't end up using it.
Yeah, me neither.
I just want one because it's cool. But yeah, I mean, I've been gaming on Linux on my laptop. Works great. Mm-hmm. There's some games you can't play, but just don't play those games.
Right? Yeah, that's how I do it.
So works great. Anyway, yeah, I love it. It's fun. Technology's cool. I still wake up every day. Not every day, but oftentimes. I think it's magic, right? The fact that you can text or call or email or watch a video from basically anywhere and it works. It's just amazing to me. It's just amazing. It's truly amazing. So I'll probably keep doing it for a while. I guess. Yeah. I got nothing else to do, but I have been getting hooked on running, though.
Yeah.
Long runs, man. Mm-hmm. Over 20 miles. That's what it's all about.
So your marathon, you said you're running next month. You did a 28. You did a 28-mile long run. Why would you go over?
Yeah, you're not supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why?
Are you going for a certain speed goal or just?
Originally, I wanted to do 4 hours even. I actually might be able to do it, but my plan is actually a 5-hour marathon, which is what I ran this weekend.
Yeah. So like you've accomplished your goal now.
Yeah, I know.
Nullifies the point.
I know. It actually has been really good because it's helped me understand running as a sport, or more like the ultra community, why they do it.
I mean, you're an ultra marathoner now, yeah.
Yeah, 28, I guess.
Every step after a marathon is an ultra marathon.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. But it's not about the event. Like, that's what sort of clicked. So the reason why is I had enough gels in my pocket, little energy gels. Have you ever tried those?
Yeah, I hate them.
Oh, you don't like it? You see, the key is you squeeze it in and then you swallow it.
Yeah.
Don't chew it. Don't. You just... And I had like 10 of them. And I had enough Gatorade and I had enough water. And I was like, I'm just gonna do 28 on the Greenway. I did 3 laps at the Greenway.
Miserable.
Yeah, it was awful. The last lap I did backwards. So
okay.
So I did 2 laps and then I did 1 lap backwards. And that was, I was already running when I decided. I was already running and I was like, I think I'm gonna do 3 laps. And my previous run had been 19 miles. Longest I'd ever run in my life. And so, right, a 40% PR, whatever. But it really, I'm glad I did it because I feel like what was interesting is when I did it or when I decided to do it, really when I decided to do the long run, I felt so like free in a way. It was weird. And then after accomplishing it, doing it, it was very hard. Really, the last 4 miles, 5 miles, from 23 on was harder than the previous 23 miles. That last 5 miles, which I read this online too, like the last 6 miles of a marathon are harder than the first 20.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
100% true. Like, over 20, it's just you're out of everything.
Yeah.
You have no more energy. It's gone. You've like eked it all out. But it's not like working out where your muscles are exhausted. Running for 4, 5, 6 hours, you don't have any more left in your body. Like all your glucose is gone. It's all been burned up. It's like a squeezed grape or whatever, like orange.
It's like toothpaste tube.
Yeah, like a squeezed toothpaste tube, and then there's always still some more in there.
Yeah,
and that's what your body's like rolling it up, trying to get the last. And there's always more. There's always more, and that's what your body's doing on the long run over 20 miles, and doing the marathon ahead of time made it more personal, I guess I could say, right? Like, because now I'm like, I can do this anytime I want.
Yeah.
I could just go out and run 30 miles.
Yeah. Surprised you didn't go to 30 to make it even.
Well, I wanted to, but that was like 3 laps, which it was 28.2. Exactly. 3 laps. But that's kind of now, I'm struggling to put it into words. Like, it's like sort of like a contentment in a way. Like, I feel like running the marathon is just going to be another run. Now,
yeah,
I never understood that. I've never had that same feeling about any of the other sports I've done. I mean, I've pulled a 600 deadlift. Like, I've powerlifted. I've done a strongman competition. And I've never had this same feeling of contentment about doing a hard thing. It's weird. But I think it's something unique to, I think, maybe running or cycling, perhaps.
Swimming, I think.
Swimming, maybe, but anything you do for a long period of time, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, sport, endurance sport. And I think everybody who does it, I think they get it. People who don't do it, don't get it. And then it's kind of like open source maybe in a way. Like once you maybe run a project, like I've never done that. There's probably things you just get now.
Yeah.
But with running, it's like, yeah, I ran this far. I'm good. I want to do it more, but I feel like I'm a part of like the community now already.
I mean,
but I didn't have to ask anybody.
No.
You just have to do that hard thing. You just have to go out and run for 6 hours. Go run for 6 hours. That's all you gotta do. And then you're one of us now.
Yeah.
And I feel that because I'm like, I want to do it again.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
Yeah.
It was so miserable. But it's like 2 days later, 3 days later, I'm like, I want to do it again. I think I want to do it again. Mm-hmm. And I had never thought that. I didn't even want to run the marathon. You know, like with my brother. Like he's the one who's like, let's do the Marine Corps Marathon last year. And I was like, okay. I hate running.
Yeah.
And even now I'm still like, I still hate running. Like that's why.
It's understandable.
But my training plan for running is going to be, I want to run once a week. I want to run a marathon every week. Like that's my plan. Because it's like, okay, people run, 40 miles a week. Well, I'm just going to run 26 miles a week in one run. Yeah.
Have you heard the eat a frog in the morning thing?
No, what's that?
Do the worst thing of the day in the morning so that you get it over with.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Do the worst thing of the week at the beginning of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm probably going to do it Saturday, but that's, or the other thing I want to do is I want to do a half marathon first Saturday, second Saturday do a full, third Saturday do a half, fourth Saturday do a 50K.
Oh, okay.
So 32.
Yeah, yeah.
And then have that be and then the rest of the time work out of the gym, do CrossFit, whatever. And anyway. But it's weird, like this is new for me. Like I totally get though how people get addicted to running. Because it feels so good afterwards. It feels so good after the long run, specifically for me. After that, it took me 5 hours and 45 minutes to do. It took me 45 minutes to do the last 2 miles.
Oh, really?
I was walking. I mean,
I
literally couldn't run. I did run the whole 26, but I was running 3.5 miles per hour the last mile.
Yeah, it's still running.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but then I could not run after 26.5 probably. And I don't know, man. I would recommend it. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah. When I did my 17, it was just an experience of misery with no relief afterwards.
So I think it's nutrition.
I think it is too, because I didn't eat anything.
I think the reason I feel good even now is because I ate like 1,800 calories while I was running.
Yeah.
So because that all keeps your muscles from getting too damaged and stuff. Yeah. The nutrition.
Yeah.
That's everything what I've been reading.
I've always just relied on eat a metric ton of pasta the night before, but that only gets you so far. Like that'll work for a 10K or half marathon, but after that,
that's what I mean. It's just a whole new experience. Yeah. And then over 20 is even more than I think you can get away with it with 20.
Yeah, probably.
You'll probably bonk at like 16 and it'll be rough the past 4.
Yeah.
But over 20, for me it was 22 pretty much, 22, 23. Because I was eating calories the whole time. And I still crashed.
Yeah.
My legs crashed. My mind didn't, but my legs just died.
Did you listen to anything while you...
I was listening to like Gregorian chant for like an hour. And then a lot of times I'll call people on the phone.
Yeah.
And talk to people on the phone. Because I run slow. I run slow. But then I just listen to music, like techno music or whatever. Some people might listen to books. I don't like running. I don't like doing something and listening to a book on tape. I prefer to just listen to the book on tape and just sit.
Yeah.
Maybe smoke a cigar, or drink something or whatever. But that's it. Driving, I can do it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's how I do it. I drive and listen. But only to podcasts. I can't listen to audiobooks. My brain just will not do it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
In general, or?
At all, really. I'll try to listen, and then I just zone out. And then all the stories gone by. With a podcast, you can zone out, come back, and you're still getting something, you know.
That's fair. See, I can't do podcasts because I feel like I'm wasting my time.
Well, it depends on what you listen to.
I feel like, well, I work in the podcast industry, sort of, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so to me, I always look at it from the angle of, this is entertainment. I'm not going to learn anything.
Yeah.
Which that's not accurate, but it's just, there's so many empty words in podcasts, I find. There's a lot of empty words.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
Well, this is what I do. It's a podcast. Yeah. So just think about what we've talked about.
Yeah. There's a lot of empty words. Yeah, right? I mean, right, you go off on trails. It's an ongoing conversation, whereas a book is written, edited, designed for the point, the thing. Whether it's entertainment or whether it's...
Yeah.
Right, whether it's a sci-fi fantasy novel or whatever, or whether it's a book about information theory, right? But if it's about information theory, every chapter has been crafted with intent.
Yeah.
Whereas a podcast is not that.
Yeah. The podcast, the one that I do it's a historical thing. It's meant to archive stories.
Yeah.
And it is entertainment, but it's meant to be a history lesson, really.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat educational, but I think it's for people's families. Like someone I interviewed sometime last year, they passed away recently, and I haven't really heard from their family. But I would like to think that their family is able to go back to their episode and listen.
Yep.
And maybe that'll be a source of comfort for them.
That's true. I think that's fair. I think, like I think about when my grandfather died, it was really hard on my dad.
Yeah.
I never knew him very well, Heath. And, but I'm sure he would have appreciated something like this. The good thing about podcasts and stuff is they are easy to consume.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, my grandfather, he wrote a diary, or not a diary, but a journal from when he was like my age, 35 or so, to 85. They're all in Maine. Like, I was looking at them when I went home.
Yeah.
But it's harder to consume that.
Yeah.
And it's also not, oddly enough, it's actually not very personal. It's just the way he wrote and what he wrote about. Whereas a podcast, right, especially if you're a good interviewer, right, you can draw out some of those details about their life. Maybe what struggles they had, whatever. Asking why. Why did you do that? Or what happened? Or how did that happen?
Yeah. Something my dad has emphasized to me a lot is don't ask what happened, ask why.
Yeah.
And you'll get more.
Yeah, a more personal, a more real answer. Why is a good question.
Yeah.
Most people, I think, we end up living in the world of what happened. But you miss the point. Or you miss the meat. But it's more comfortable in personal relationships to say, well, what happened? Because maybe you don't want to know why. Because what if why is bad? Or whatever. Especially if it's like maybe a girl or like your wife or whatever. I feel like you can end up not actually getting to know them. But it's maybe subconscious on your part, but it's sort of intentional. Right? You know what? What if it's bad? What if it's all fear-based? So a lot of times, the reason people don't ask the question why is because they're afraid. They're afraid to get the answer. Yeah. They don't want to know.
And I've experienced that. I've had some very personal and deep conversations with people where they talk about people very close to them dying. And or just horrific medical things that they've went through. And I've struggled to ask why because it feels like an invasion of privacy.
Yep.
And I have asked before and they tell me, and they get very emotional. But I've also asked and they're just like, I don't want to talk about it. And it's hard to take that risk because sometimes after they're like, I don't want to talk about it, the conversation just shuts down.
Right. You can't recover.
Right.
Yeah.
So taking that risk is very challenging sometimes.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. Well, that's as an interviewer, right? You'll understand better when and when not to ask.
And just asking why isn't enough. It's how you ask why, and that's what I struggle with too.
Yeah, but as you're doing it, right? I think about like old people at church, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like talking to them because I don't want to ask the question. Number one, so I can take responsibility for that.
Yeah,
I don't want to have deep conversations with them, so I'm not willing to ask the questions why.
Yeah,
in the right ways. So that's probably step one. That's number one wrong. Maybe I should send it there. But yeah, I think because everything feels so surface in interactions with them, it's all so boring. And so I just avoid the situation. Right. But really, I could change it. It's just in asking that question why, having the courage to have a real conversation. I think that's a better way to live, to be honest. So if we're going to talk about like moral philosophy type stuff like that, I think having the courage to ask why of people close to you, your wife, your kids, vice versa. If your kids ask it of your parents, which that happens more often because kids aren't afraid. Yeah. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. They don't care. They're not worried about the rejection or whatever might come. But your grandparents, why? And get into that deeper level, which I think we've talked about this, the Toyota company, right? I read in a book, 5 Whys. Did I ever tell you about that? So the Toyota, they came up with this method of finding problems, which is you ask why 5 times. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the root of the problem. But it takes asking why 5 times.
I guess you've used that on me before.
I think probably, yeah.
I've proposed a solution or something, and you ask why. And I'll give you an answer, and you ask why again. Why again? Why? It's been really frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes if you're ideating, ideating or something. Yeah. But okay, this machine broke.
Why?
Why did this machine break? Right. Yeah. Well, this part failed. Why did that part fail? Boom. Now you're like, okay, this blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, right, it's, the ore they used to mine and smelt into that part, you get to that pretty quick, asking why 5 times, right? Yeah. Came from a mine in China that is tainted or whatever. Oh, we need to source our parts from a different provider is the problem, not the machine broke. Right? Like, you get to the root problem.
Not the symptom.
And then you're treating real stuff.
Yeah.
Which is pretty, but it's hard to do that. I mean, it's how you ask it. With people, it's hard to, because you can't just ask why, because it's like, what, are you interrogating me?
Yeah.
So it's an art.
It's like, how did that make you feel?
Yeah. What, are you a psychologist?
Right. And then you get that. So, yeah. It's an art form, I think.
So conversation is an art. And there was an Englishman, I remember reading a quote from him talking about that. But basically, you can learn how to be a good conversationalist. And so do that, right? I need to do it. It's something I think about sometimes. It's like, okay, it's for their sake that I should be a good conversationalist. Yeah. Basically to entertain them or whatever, just if it's a social interaction, like let's do this. Let's be good at this. You ever watch Hot Ones? Mm-hmm. You ever watch Hot Ones?
I don't think so.
You've never really?
No.
Oh man, you gotta watch Hot Ones at least once.
Okay.
YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
But him as the interviewer, I forget the guy's name. Sean, I think his name is. They eat hot wings. Really? You haven't seen this? So they eat progressively hotter wings to some really, really hot wings, 10 of them. And throughout the whole thing, he's asking them questions. And something he does, so it's all celebrities. So, but he asks questions oftentimes where he researched them. And he asks some questions about things that like people don't really know about sometimes. Yeah. So sometimes there's a celebrity and he's like, how did you know that?
Right.
And so anyway, I don't know. My point is he takes his interview, he preps and he takes his interview seriously.
Yeah. And see, that's what I've had to do with certain guests because I'm told, hey, here's 30 minutes. Use it however you want.
Yeah.
And so I don't have the time to milk it out of them, you know.
Yeah.
I need to get straight to the questions I feel like I need to ask.
Yep.
And that requires a lot of research beforehand.
Yep. So yeah, you've experienced it, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of question to question.
Yeah.
And
then my congressman was a good example of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really? How'd that go?
It went all right. I got very surface level answers, very political answers, you know, but
Yeah, you couldn't really.
no. But it was cool to experience talking to a congressman, you know.
It's hard though. I mean, yeah, on his side, right? It's his job.
Yeah.
That is his job. It's part of his job.
Yeah. And that's why it was ironically easier to interview politicians first, because they have an obligation to talk to you, whereas everyday people don't. So
okay.
the first episodes was mainly just politicians.
Really?
Yeah.
So what, like county?
Yeah, county,
officials?
sheriff, Commonwealth attorney, congressman, treasurer, board of supervisors members, that's the equivalent of county commissioner for Virginia. Candidates, people who are running for election, they want to talk to you.
Yep.
So yeah, and since I've branched out to teachers and people I know personally who I'm interested in hearing their story.
Which ones do you think are better?
Oh, definitely the people I know. For sure. Because, like, we're having a real conversation, you know? It's not an interrogation, I mean.
Yeah, no, I think this is what younger people probably like, in a sense, maybe? I don't know.
The majority of our listeners are, like, retired people.
Oh, really?
So.
Well, yeah, interesting.
Because they value this sort of thing. They value the days where you could sit down on the porch with someone and have a conversation for 6 hours. Is there anything else that I haven't brought up that you just really want to talk about? Briefly.
Sure. Well, I think, personally, I guess I would add religion into it. I'll talk about that. Like, I think in today's day and age, I think me and my dad have talked about this a lot. Yeah, so we talked about business, right? We've talked a little bit about sport, which I think is fun. But religion, I think, is an important component of your life. There's also truth, right? Which elevates the conversation beyond opinion, right? If you're talking about truth, real truth, right? So I won't approach that too much, I don't think. But I think it's important today with all the distraction and everything. And I run into so many people who their wife's leaving them or they're leaving their wife or whatever, just like every week, somebody new, some new destructive event in people's lives. And it's really important to practice your religion, whatever that may be. I'll put it there. I'm Catholic, Christian. And I really would recommend to everybody to take it seriously. Take your religion seriously. Now I will say there's right and wrong, and there is truth. And so I would recommend everybody be Christian. But regardless, take your religion seriously. Take those big questions, about life, because and I can't explain this well, I don't think, but they do matter, even in your personal relationships, like the big questions. Why am I here? What is right and wrong? What is sin? Is there such a thing? Like why do I feel guilty about this thing? All this stuff that people go to therapists for and everything, all these problems. Why do I have another broken relationship? Why did my girlfriend leave me again? This other thing. Why do I hate my parents? Whatever. All of these important personal questions that people have. Christianity has answers for these, but your religion has answers for these questions. So I really would recommend it took me a long time to enter the church. I grew up Christian, but in a Christian household. But due to the work that I do, podcasting with hard right-wing Christian podcasters, I realized that it's not really about truth. It's about entertainment. That's my point. Like, they say it's about truth, but it's more like propaganda. It's just propaganda that I also happen to generally agree with.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's not really, it feels like there's ulterior motives. The motives aren't for you, the person, the listener. There's an agenda, and it's not necessarily, sometimes it seems like it's about money, kind of, or something. And so what led me to where I am as a Catholic is sort of looking at the landscape and asking, well, what is the church? What is truth? Is there such a thing as truth? Is there truth? And for me, there is truth. There must be truth. There is right. There is wrong. If there is justice, right? Like all these things, like there must be truth. Truth must exist. Otherwise, this world is wrong. It's just wrong. It just can't be that way. And so who are these people who know this, who know truth? Who are the people who know truth? Who are these people? Where are they? If there is truth, there must be people who know it.
Right.
There must be, if there is.
Yeah.
Right? Is that logical?
Yeah.
I hope so. Right?
It is.
And so I ended up going to Russian Orthodox churches. I ended up going everywhere. Going to Baptist churches. I kept it on the Jesus side of the equation, right, of religion. And I ended up, realizing it's Catholic Church. Right? Well, why? Well, they act like they know the truth. And they seem to have a pretty good case for it. 2,000 years old minimum, like, pretty legit, seems like there's something there. And they've got magic and mystery and all the stuff that kind of scratches that itch, which I'm talking about, that I think a lot of our problems are we don't have enough miracles in our life, right? There's not enough magic. There's not enough transcendent things to escape the base nature that we have, right, of consuming and watching just entertaining shows and doing just this stuff, and even work can be unfulfilling, like, and there's all kinds of things that when you really get down to it and you think about it, it's like, what's the point? Why do that? Why do this podcast? Why am I doing this podcast? Like, what's the point, type of thing. So you have some good motivations for it, like you were talking about earlier. But I would say in the philosophy of life, you really need to practice your religion to achieve, sort of transcend some of this reality, to escape into a more real, true reality, because we are spiritual beings, right? And so there's that behind the curtain, that if you choose to be ignorant about it, you're just screwing yourself.
Yeah.
You're just screwing yourself. Like Ian Cole, he's building a philosophy. You should interview him, by the way, actually.
Yeah, he would be a good interview.
Cool. He would be a great interview. But he's doing a lot of thinking right now about why life, why all things, why everything. And he's doing good thinking on it. We've talked about it at length for hours, and it's great. But it's like a lot of this is already figured out. Okay, a lot of these questions you have already answered. A lot of these things, the framework is already built. The system of truth is already there. You don't need to refigure out things. that are already figured out by theologians, you know. So anyway, that's a little bit everywhere on that. But my message to people, for if there's the most important takeaway for everybody as a general rule beyond running or starting a business or whatever, is practice your religion and do it well. You know, that's it. So that would be I think, practice your religion. That's the most important thing.
And then my final 2 questions I've asked every single guest I've interviewed. Yeah, the first one is, what advice would you give to young people my age who don't know what they want to do with their life?
Practice your religion. No, well, I mean, yes, that, but so what's the question again? Let me think about this.
People my age who don't know what they want to do with life.
17?
Yeah, 17, 18. Just graduating high school, entering into the world.
Don't know what to do with their life.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would pray, number one. And number 2, I would I know, I can only answer out of experience. Yeah. So in my life, the best decisions that I made were actually on a whim, pretty much. Joining the Marines was totally not something that I built towards. I just went for it. Just did it. Seemed like the right thing to do. So I think there's a lot of listen to your gut type of thing. What do you like? Well, so then we fast forward to, say, starting a business, which also was, it was more, I ended up answering what I didn't want to do over and over again. Until I finally had enough experience of that, knowing what I didn't want to do under my belt, to know what I think I might want to do. So I guess you could start that process. Figure out what you don't want to do, for sure, and start from there. That's it. Because I'm sure you don't want to do not everything. You know what I mean? You don't not want to do everything. Double negative. You know what I mean? So, but what you do want to do might be multiple things at that point. But at least those multiple things are going to be better than other things that you are for sure you don't want to do. So for you, right? It's what are your for sure don't want to do? You gotta have something. I mean, do you want to be a trash guy?
I don't know. There's something attractive about the job. You do it, you go home, and it stays at home. It's true. Or it stays at work. It
but you're too smart for that. You know, there's also another thing you could ask yourself. Well, what am I built to do?
Yeah.
For me, that was looking back. I played with computers since I was 7 years old.
Yeah. Breaking
computers when I was a kid. I always played video games. But on PC, I was always doing the PC thing. So there is that aspect. What do you don't want to do? What do you like to do? Okay. How do you do that? Now, there is something when you turn something you like into your work, you can kind of get burned out on it. Yeah. I would argue from experience, when you turn your hobby into work, you hit a point where you have to choose, do I want it to not be a hobby anymore or not? Me, I basically hit that point and I said, no, I want it to stay my hobby. But I'm never going to make tons of money. I don't think. Maybe I will, but I don't, because of that decision, right? I like playing with computers, so I'm going to do that. That might be a glass ceiling, which basically it's about $200K a year is what I find. $200 to $300K a year is your ceiling if you don't want to run a business. You're basically going to make $300K max, probably, from my experience. From what I've seen, EMWD, that was what he would bounce up. He always, every year he'd make like 180, 190, 200, 180, 190, 200 in his history of invoices, right? And so I think that's pretty much. So if you want to make more money than that, you're going to have to take a different approach than I have, which is turning a hobby into a business. And then you end up, it's kind of like the mechanic over here, Jason, right? Brannix. Granted, they're probably doing more than 200 or 300, but maybe he's moving into that. Well, I'm turning this into a business now. And it's morphing from his hobby. But if you just want to do something by yourself, be a sole proprietor, run a business, and it's your hobby, and you like that work, you're going to make $200K a year. Gross.
Yeah.
Your net's going to be maybe 100.
Yeah.
Max type of thing. Yeah. So that's, I don't know. That's, what do you like to do? I would list what you don't want to do for sure. Well, I'd pray first. List what you don't want to do for sure. And then, what do you want to do? Then you could ask other questions, of like, do I want to be married? Do I want a family? I think that's important for a 17-year-old to ask, to be honest, frankly. Because I think you should, if you do, you should get married younger, if you can. I don't. That's my personal. How much more fun would life be if you had a partner who's also growing up with you? See, me, I'm on the other side of it. That's not going to happen for me. Like, I'm already grown up, in a sense. I've already made all the 20s mistakes or whatever, the 30s mistakes, whereas you could make all those mistakes with somebody. So if that's in the cards, right? Okay, take that into account too. And that'll sort itself out as well. Like, that will change, have kids, whatever. Once you have kids, all bets are off on everything you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I think that's, and I wouldn't immediately recommend college as like a for sure you need to do it type of thing. Now, it's a good idea to get a degree. I don't have one, and it is a limiting factor, especially if you want to work for the government. Right? So there's, yeah. I do wonder though if the college degree is going to be worth less now because of the internet.
Yeah.
You can learn all this. You can learn so much from YouTube. You can learn college level stuff for free.
All of the work I did for you was done off of knowledge I got from YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, me too. I mean, my whole business. Yeah. Literally, I had to learn it as I did it.
Right.
So another thing is somebody 17, I would not recommend trying to be a YouTube star. Frankly, personally, I think that's stupid.
Yeah.
I think you should learn a skill of some type, and learn how to work, and don't try to avoid work. Period. Just don't try to avoid work. You will be better off if you learn to enjoy work. And find something at least that you can kind of enjoy. That's like, but don't, a lot of people I run into, younger guys, are like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber or whatever. Yeah. It's like, dude, do you know how much work it takes to be a successful YouTuber? So what are you good at? And if it's not being a YouTuber, do not be a YouTuber. Like, just don't do it. You know how much work it takes to make content.
Yeah.
And this is just a low-level podcast. Like,
I made $0.00.
Like a what?
I've made $0.00, and it's taken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Like, how many hours have you put in? How much money have you made? Okay, wow, there you go. Yeah. Now, you have reasons for you're doing it, right? So it's
not about the money.
Exactly. So that's a decision you made. and that's good. But if you want to live on this podcast, right, it's like, would you?
I'm failing.
Yeah, right, exactly. Another thing I would encourage people, don't go into debt if you can avoid it. I have zero debt, and I think it changes how you think.
Are you a Dave Ramsey fan?
No, not really. I'm not really a fan of stuff like that. I feel like there's always hidden lies.
Yeah, well, there are, for sure.
You know, but yeah, he's a big debt-free type of guy. I'm
a big fan.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm not a fan, but I can't say I'm a fan. I'm not a fan, but I don't have debt.
Right.
And somebody asked me recently, like, what, so you're not going to buy a house? It's like, nope. Oh, but what a waste of money. You're going to rent, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. I can't afford a house, so I'm not going to buy one. It's that simple.
Simple as that, yeah.
But what it does for you ultimately is it, like, even for my business, being debt-free means if I make a mistake, I'm broke. Yeah. Like, so the pressure is very high for me. Like, literally 2 weeks ago, I had $700 in my bank account because car broke, cost $2,500 to fix it. Vacation added up, it cost $1,000 more than I thought. You know, so there's an extra $3,500 that I did not anticipate. Then there was, 10 other things that I didn't anticipate happening, which this is how it happens.
Of course.
All happens at the same time.
Yeah.
But because because of the grace of God, I still had $700 and was still able to make all of my payments to all of my people on time. And then I got the money the next day, right? Cash flow. So, but if I didn't have the money, I have no excuse. I have to negotiate deals to either stretch it out or ask why 5 times and figure out what the problem is. Right. There's no, I'm just going to get a $200,000 loan.
Yeah.
Screw it. Yeah. And then just flood it with cash and not worry about the details. Right. Which I could do that with my revenue. I could probably get a $200,000 loan. But it's like, why would I do that? Mm-hmm. It's going to make me a worse businessman. Mm-hmm. It's going to make me worse at life. So debt, I think, is dangerous. If you're good at it, like if you're smart, sure, maybe use it. Right? Like Marshall. Marshall, he's all about it. But he is very good at it, smart. He's very good with money. And he understands how it works. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you to learn about. Anyway, I can go on forever about this stuff. Yeah. I encourage you to learn about how money works. All this stuff. Yeah. So anyway, list what you don't want to do. Think about what you do want to do. What do you like doing? And what are you good at? Mm-hmm. Play to your strengths, man. Play to your strengths. If you're good at something, do that. Mm-hmm. Don't try and do something you're bad at. Because then you're just going to waste your time. So if you're built to do a thing, if you're good at cars and you're good at mechanic stuff, be a mechanic. Find a mechanic, apprentice under them, and do it. And be happy about it. Don't try to be a YouTuber mechanic. Unless you have the skills to be a YouTuber and a mechanic.
Yeah. Film yourself repairing cars. There are people who do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I watch their videos sometimes, right? The Real Mechanics React. Great channel. So much fun. But, anyway, that would be my recommendation. What's the second question?
Second question, final question. It's a bit of a cliche, but that is, what is the meaning of life to you? You kind of answered it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obligated to say, to love God and to love your neighbor. Right. Do I live that way? Frankly, no. I don't think so. Not as good as I should. But that is the answer. Because what else matters? You're going to die. Yeah. Like, you're going to die. And what are you going to do about it? Like, that's it. So, once you're dead, what then? And there's consequences and or aren't consequences or whatever. There's consequences regardless. If free will is a thing, which many people disagree with, but if free will is a thing, which it is, so there's consequences to the answering of that question. Mm-hmm. What happens when I die? And that's Yeah. So you have to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, I mean, love, right? A cliche question, cliche answer. Love is the answer.
Yeah.
You must love. That's it. You must love. Let's become love. Because that is what God is. And that is the point. That is the point of all things. It's the thing that binds all things together. And the reason it sounds like a stupid answer, right, is because it's so rare. Because we're all so bad at it. Because we all just love ourselves. I am chief among those people, but we need to be better than that, but that also, love is not license to do evil, right? So there is good and evil. So anyway, that's it. That's the meaning of life. Be ready for death. Be ready for death, and that will give life more meaning. How about that?
I like it.
Or think about death more, and that will help your life to have more meaning. Cool.
Thank you, Jared. I really appreciate you sitting down with me and having this conversation.
Thank you, sir.